The views and opinions expressed by tonight's guest and topic of discussion do not necessarily represent the official policy or position of Spaced Out Radio, Spaced Out Saturdays or Sundays, SOR Media, its hosts, syndicated carriers, or anyone associated with this broadcast. Any rebroadcast, reproduction, or other use of this broadcast or podcast without the expressed written consent of SOR Media is strictly prohibited. Listener discretion is advised. Buckle up, space travelers. It's time to go for a ride on Spaced Out Radio with host Dave Scott.
It's Tuesday, February 6th, Wednesday, February 7th, if you're on the East Coast or across the pond, and this is Spaced Out Radio. Hope you had a great day and night. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair, live in the Great White North in the Caribou region on top of the snowy mountains of central British Columbia at SOR headquarters. We are 150,000 strong nightly on WQEE 99 Rock the Key down in Noonan, Georgia, on the United Public Radio Network 107.7 FM in New Orleans, at over 160 countries around the world. We're also live on spacedoutradio.com, Spreaker, The Fringe FM, and if you're listening in on Revolution Radio, remember the Double R Machine is a donation station financed by you, the valued listener. Head on over to revolution.radio and donate today. We're live all over the internet. You can find us on periscope.tv, live every single show. We're on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. Give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. On Instagram, follow me at Dave Scott, SOR. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Go to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Listen to us on iHeartRadio in the United States. TalkStream Live. Tune us in on TuneIn. Download and subscribe to our shows on iTunes. And, of course, our website is spacedoutradio.com. We also have a GoFundMe account going on right now as we try to raise funds to improve our broadcast technology. Go to GoFundMe.com/We Own the Night. That's GoFundMe.com/We Own the Night. Now, if you head to our website, spacedoutradio.com, you can go to our store, do a little shopping, read the Encounter Online, dealing with everything strange, paranormal. My blog is on there as well. We've also got great videos from UFO Seekers, Contact TV, and so much more. The first Tuesday of every month, we focus on the spiritual side of the paranormal, with a feature we like to call around these parts, the Spiritual You. Tonight, Elizabeth Anglin is here to talk about everything from telepathy to intuition and how you can connect with your loved ones on the other side. So tonight, we're taking your calls. 1-702-302-4556 is the number. 1-702-302-4556. As many of you know, Elizabeth hosts Spaced Out Sundays, Cosmic Passport. She's an MIT grad, along with being a lifelong ET contactee and psychic medium. She is one of the most talented people I know when it comes to breaking down spirituality, so we can all understand. Elizabeth, it's been a while since I actually got to interview you. How are you doing, my friend? Where did Elizabeth go? She's not turning her mic on. I don't know where Elizabeth went. Did she all of a sudden run away?
No, I'm here. And I'm sitting here going, "Oh, Dave, I'm not an MIT. Can't say that on air."
I thought you were. I thought you were.
No, I worked there.
Okay, you worked at it. I apologize. That is my bad. I apologize.
Okay, so I did cool things when I worked there, but I didn't graduate from there. I graduated from the University of Massachusetts.
What a step down. Oh.
I know, yeah, state school. Oh my God.
Well,
yeah.
I apologize. I do apologize. That is my question. Joseph is quickly asking in the Spreaker chat room, will they take chat questions? Always. We always take chat questions from the chat rooms. Well, I feel like a heel. I feel like a heel now. I feel like a heel.
You're not a heel. It's just I can't say that because if it gets around that I'm claiming that I graduated.
Fully understand.
It would
fully
be
understand.
bad.
Yes,
yeah.
Fully understand.
Yeah. So, because I have to tell you that the students who do go to MIT, they get hosed with work in really cruel and unusual ways, and it's like going through 4 years of boot camp in the Army, and I just couldn't possibly even claim that.
I couldn't do that either. Could not do that either.
All right, so let's talk about something else.
Yes. No, Elizabeth does not own MIT. She worked at MIT.
Here's the cool things that I worked on. I worked in the heavy ion group on the Phobos experiment, which was meant to duplicate the Big Bang. And I worked with Henry Kendall, who is the founder of the Union of Concerned Scientists, and some other really cool folks. I worked in nuclear engineering after that with George Apostolakis, who was sent over to Japan to try to figure out what to do with Fukushima, because he's the guy who helped us when we originally had 3 Mile Island, how to fix it. I'm not sure what he's been able to do with Fukushima, but he's a really good guy. And then I worked in the chemistry department on anti-cancer chemistry research. So that's what I did. But I don't own MIT.
No, that would be one expensive bill.
Bill.
Anyhow, did you check the news today about Elon Musk and the SpaceX launch?
Yes, that was awesome. I loved it.
It was phenomenal. What an engineering feat, honestly. What an engineering feat today. I mean, to see those 2 rocket boosters come back to the ground and land on their platforms, their launch platforms, I mean, that was just phenomenal. It really was. And then the idea, to have his actual, car go up in space with a dummy astronaut sitting in the driver's seat. I mean, that car is going to be, and I think it's funny because I was listening to an interview with Elon Musk afterwards, and he's like, yeah, it'll probably be in space for about 1 million or 1 billion years, whatever it is. I mean, what the hell? It's just a car. And there's people out there like us who are like, no, I want that car. You know what I'm saying? I think it's hilarious. I really do.
Well, what's going to happen is all of us truck drivers are going to stop laughing at Teslas. We're going to be like, I love my truck, but I want a Tesla because it's in space. It's awesome. So he was very smart to do that.
I thought it was phenomenal, and I was showing my little guy the launch today, and he's really into Transformers, and so when I started talking to him, I said, that rocket is going to try and get as close to Mars as it can, and he's like, where's Mars? Because he's only 4. And I'm like, well, it's way up there. It's a planet way up in space, and he's like, is it near Cybertron? And I'm like, no, but you're thinking the right way, I didn't want to, to him, the only other planet he knows because of his addiction to Transformers is Cybertron, so he in his mind has built up that Cybertron is a real planet. I think it's kind of funny. It's funny, but it's cute at the same time.
Yeah, now you have to worry about does my child still believe in Cybertron versus does my child still believe in Santa Claus? Oh my goodness.
Yes. I mean, how do you break that down? You don't. But what an engineering feat today. I mean, this rocket that he sent into space, it's going to come back with so much information, whether it's, the actual radiation from the Van Allen belt. Hopefully we could get some clarification on that, because there seems to be, after the whole Apollo missions, that there seems to be such a debate on how much radiation is actually up there if we haven't sent man past there since the Apollo missions. And there's going to be a lot of other types of information. I'm not a big science geek, but this was very, very cool, and I think, it was a big day for mankind. It really was a big day for mankind, and it really showed that, he spent well over $500 million on this project alone, on this launch alone, and when he says, you're thinking of 1,000 things that could go wrong, he expected that rocket to fully blow up. And right now it's traveling to the stars, and it's a beautiful moment. We haven't seen this in a long, long time, and it's our generation's, Apollo missions coming all back again. I mean, I was excited today about it. I really was.
Yeah, what's neat about it is it shows. I have to say that when I was at MIT, the folks that I hung out with and did certain things in a circle involving passing to the left were all in the AI lab. And most of them were all about, we have to go to the stars soon. We have to go out there. We have to go look at what's out there. And they were into the alien stuff because they were like, well, that's another reason why we have to go out there. We have to become citizens of the universe. And so I know from back in, when I was in school, hanging out with these guys, that they were probably all just jumping up and down like crazy, because when you add the government to something like this, it takes forever to get something really good done. But when you start to get private industry involved, like we have, it's going to go faster. And so here we are seeing it go faster, seeing it done better. I am not trying to sound really right-wing, but sometimes private industry does scientific missions or science faster and better than the government does. Sometimes, and this seems to be a case where it does, so that's great. And Elon Musk did do a great marketing job for his car. So.
Oh, absolutely. And if you go to SpaceX on YouTube right now, you can watch the live feed of what is actually happening with Starman. It's absolutely amazing. And it's I don't know why I'm geeking out so much about this. The whole space program really has never really excited me. But maybe because, I come from the shuttle generation, as most of us do these days. And, I don't recall. I was too young for the Apollo hype. So to actually see a rocket and then, followed up by Musk saying, you know what? In a year from now, we could be sending people up towards Mars. That's just phenomenal to me. Absolutely phenomenal. And I'm right into this, that we might be able to put men back on the moon. And, in 1 year. In 1 year. So I think, I'm very excited. I'm very excited by this. And it's something that I just haven't been excited about before. The shuttles were boring to me. They really were. But
I'm wondering now what will happen if we do start putting people back in space, people to the moon. If we'll have people who will honestly tell us what they see up there. Like will we get disclosure from the people who go next time? When the people who did last time, it was more militarized, so they, when they were told to shut up, they shut up.
I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, this is really going to open up the eyes to whether or not the last 30 years we've been prepping bases on the moon for this moment, or whether it's just a ball of dust.
Yeah.
It's going to be very interesting. What will the aliens say? What will the aliens on the moon say?
They'll say, please don't bomb us, like NASA. That's what they'll say. They'll be, howdy, don't bomb us.
Could very well be. But like if you believe the hype around the Apollo missions that Neil Armstrong had said on the emergency channel, they are here, they are on the hill, and they are watching us. Uh-huh. I'm very curious to see, if we do go to the moon or something gets scrubbed there to protect from what is actually there. I mean, India has already sent their own module to the moon to look at things and to check out the moon. What happens there? I really don't know.
Yeah. Well, I do have to say, since, my personal information is that there are at least Satans on the moon, there are aliens on the moon. So there very well could have been aliens on the moon back when that message went out that they are here, they are on the hill, because in my lifetime, my experience has been that there are Satans on the moon. So, why couldn't he have seen them? He could have. If they were not, being stealthy like they are on Earth. So.
Well, I caught myself looking at the spaceman sitting in the car when they had the live feed going on that. And I caught myself numerous times kind of looking at this whole thing thinking, damn it, that's pretty dark up there. That's pretty dark. Like, sure that they were getting the light from the sun on one end and the moon and Earth on the other, and probably the moon in between. But I was really looking for stars and wondering, if all of a sudden some ship came up into their view, would they cut the feed?
Yeah.
And a couple of times the feed was cut. I just don't know whether there was a ship there or it was just a bad feed because, let's face it, the higher you go up in space, the less internet there really is. So
yeah.
It's something that I was very curious about, but nonetheless, I'm very excited to watch this now, and I am very intrigued to see where this goes, because 1 year from now, as Elon Musk said, we could be sending astronauts back out there, and I think that's exciting times for our history. I really do.
Yes, I believe so. Good day.
Exactly. Now, let's get to tonight's show. Rachel Kirkland has moved on to other financial opportunities, so she had to leave behind the spiritual you. And I was talking to Liz, because Liz always came on in hour number 3, and I said, Liz, you're pretty damn good with this. I said, why don't you come on and do it? And Liz was like, yeah, absolutely I will. Absolutely I will. And I appreciate that.
No problem. I'm just a spiritualist reverend, that's all. I'm the spiritualist reverend who says that other word a lot. Oh my goodness. The word we can't say anymore.
Well, hold on a second here. I'm Canadian.
Farvignugan.
You got to realize, our Prime Minister, not to make this political, our Prime Minister at a town hall meeting in Edmonton, Alberta last night scolded a college girl for using the word mankind. And Prime Minister Unicorn stopped her right there in the middle of her sentence and said, no, we don't say that word anymore. We say people kind.
Oh, goodness gracious. Oh, my goodness.
Yes.
What a goon. Humankind. It's human. It's abbreviated. Humankind. Mankind.
So,
yeah.
A couple of questions that I saw on Twitter today that were very, very interesting was the fact that, what are we now going to name the province of Manitoba, since we're banning everything that says man in it? Are we going to call it People-toba now?
Yeah, that would be great.
In Florida, do they have manatees or people-tees?
People-tees.
Right?
Yeah.
If you're manic depressant, are you peopleic depressive? I'm not even sure if we're allowed to use the word friend. I don't know anymore.
Manifest destiny, people-fest destiny.
Women are now woe people.
Yeah.
It's terrible. It's terrible. And you people think you got it tough down south of the border with Donald Trump. Try the unicorn up here for a little while. The things that come out of his mouth will just make you scratch your head and say, is this real? Is this real?
Well, I wonder if he poops ice cream like in the commercial that's real.
It very could well be. It could very well be. I mean, he had the nerve last night. At this town meeting, a veteran stood up who lost his leg in Afghanistan on an IED. And the liberal government that we have here has been fighting in court about the raise in costs to veterans. Even though their election campaign said no veteran will go without. Here they are fighting in court. So this veteran stood up and he said, you said in your campaign that no veteran would go without, yet here we are, you're fighting us in court, number one, and number two, you paid $10 million to ISIS terrorist Omar Khadr to say sorry that the U.S. tortured you at Guantanamo Bay for murdering one of their soldiers. And our brilliant Prime Minister's response was, we don't have the money for veterans. But you got $10 million for Omar Khadr and millions for other ISIS people who got wronged when they came back to Canada. I am beyond frustrated with this idiot. I voted for him. Because I thought, you know what? It's time for a change. We don't need, these puppets up there. Don't take this the wrong way, United States, but our previous Prime Minister, Stephen Harper, in my mind, was becoming a little too Americanized. All right, and getting a little too fear-mongering in a few things that really, really bothered me and a lot of Canadians. So we figured, you know what? Let's get the 40-something dude in there. He's a year or two older than me. Good family. Father was former prime minister. Let's see where it goes. I don't know how many more times I need to hit myself for wasting my vote. It's worse. It's worse, worse, worse. The economy is worse. Everything is worse. It's terrible. Terrible, disgusting. It's terrible and disgusting. That's all I got to say. I've been ranting about this all day on Twitter. People kind? Are you kidding me? People kind. If you don't believe me, go on Twitter or on Facebook and type in people kind. One word. People kind. Watch the video. He stops the college girl. She doesn't even know that the Prime Minister scolded her for using proper English.
I'm sure she knows.
By now she does. At the time, she sure didn't.
I'm sure she knew at the time. What people allow you to see in terms of reactions. I'm sure they didn't show her reaction.
Yeah, they did. She went right on, or something along those lines. But I don't think she really understood the magnitude of it. Yeah,
I think girls are good at holding back their wanting to smack people in the head when they're offensive. So I college students, she knew she had done it.
Either way, people kind. What the hell is that? What the hell is this guy's so anti-man? I'm surprised he doesn't get a sex change.
Well, maybe what we should do is we should just stand on the border and lift up 1 foot at a time and go, ooh, ow, ooh, ow, ooh, in between, Canada and the U.S. for different reasons.
Lisa says, shut up, I'll trade you for our buffoon in the United States. You have no idea. Pay attention to what is happening north. You think just because he has a pretty smile, a gorgeous wife and children, that he's doing a great job. No, he's ruining this country. Ruining. It's terrible.
All right.
Terrible. Anyway, I vented, and we'll go from there. Anyway, I need some spiritual zen tonight, Liz. And one of the topics tonight, we'll get into it in the Thought of the Day in hour number 3, is, about telepathy. This is something that I want to believe in. I think I've had telepathic communication before, whether it's with extraterrestrials, Sasquatch, or whatever. I know that may sound weird, but I really want to get into telepathy with you tonight because I really think there is something there on connection. What is your opinion about telepathy?
Well, if you are an abductee or an alien experiencer, you know for sure that telepathy is real, because when you are dealing with aliens and you are immobilized, you can't talk. And you are having conversations in your mind with aliens. They're speaking to you. You're speaking back to them, or screaming at them, or calling them farfagnugans. And this is all being done telepathically. So at that point that telepathy is something real, because you're consciously having a telepathic experience. Now, the hard part for most people is to find ways of having a telepathic experience that they can be sure of, that don't involve being abducted by aliens. And, so you're a little ahead of the game if you've been abducted by aliens and you've had telepathic conversations, because you've experienced what that's like. But if you haven't had that, there are other ways to get to that. And one of the ways would be studying an energy, something like Reiki, something like Qigong, some kind of energy healing, and then adding to that a spiritualist practice like spirit mediumship or animal communication. Animal communication is a spiritualist practice. It has been included in the spiritualist church for decades, long before it became known in the 90s and people started writing modern day books about it. So the issue is, when do you get people to people or man to man or woman to woman telepathic conversations. And that is usually among family members or people who are very close to each other. And they will notice, you'll notice sometimes that you can be thinking about something and your child might just start talking to you about it as you've been thinking about it. Or if you're younger, your father or your mother might start thinking about it. Or if you're really close with your significant other, you can be thinking about something and they'll come in and they'll start talking about it. So one of the first human-to-human telepathic experiences I had was with my friend Dave, who was an abductee, who was in the abductee support group. And I went to his house and we went hiking and I slept on the couch, and I didn't know that he had an intercom system in his house that went from the master bedroom to everywhere else in the house. And I'm waking up, and I have just woken up, and I have just gone to stretch, and I'm thinking, oh my God, I could really use some coffee. And the next thing I know, this disembodied voice of Dave says, if you want coffee, it's in the kitchen under this on this counter, and the filters are above, and you'll see the coffee in the can next to the filters. Like immediately, as soon as I woke up, he's telling, and I'm thinking, oh my God, I could use some coffee. He's telling me where to go get the coffee, and he's upstairs. And he did that so many times when I stayed at his house. I'd be thinking about something. He'd go, well, the problem with that, I'd be thinking, I'd really like to throw that person off the side of the mountain. He goes, well, the problem with that is that somebody would probably figure it out. And I wouldn't have said anything to him. But he was on that level, having been an abductee, having had all the alien telepathic experiences, that he was just energetically and mentally connected that way, that no matter what you were doing, it didn't matter if you said it or if you thought it, Dave would respond to it. And that was really cool to have that experience of somebody responding directly to what you were thinking, as right after you thought it. But he was an abductee. So it's easier, but you can learn it other ways.
Is it something that comes naturally after you've had an experience, albeit paranormal or something supernatural like alien contact, or is this something that just comes with being more in tune with your own spiritual frequency?
Well, people talk about spiritual frequency, and I think talking about spiritual frequency actually does a lot of people a disservice. And I'm not being anti-spiritual here. I'm not saying I am a spiritualist. So, but it has to do with understanding how your mind works and how your energy field works, and what we do in terms of our energy with other people, with our animals, with people that we love, with people that we care about. We connect up energetically with them. And when we do that, if we understand how our mind works, a lot of times our thoughts and feelings may not actually be our thoughts and feelings. We may be being empathetic to the animals we're with, to the people that we're with. And if we're not willing to recognize that that's a reality, that you can be so empathetic that you are telepathic with your people that you care about or people that you know, then you'll just say, oh, your wife is feeling anxious and crappy one day, and you wake up feeling anxious and crappy at the same time, or your daughter, or your son, or your mother, or your father. All of a sudden, you're feeling that way. You don't know what's causing it, and then you check in and find out that they're feeling that way. Chances are you're picking up on what they're feeling, or you're telepathically empathizing. And part of telepathy is actually having the feelings or knowing what the other people are feeling. So it's telepathy, but it's also empathy. direct telepathy is more, it's basically the same thing as clairaudience. You're hearing the other person's thoughts in your head. And that's what's interesting is that in spiritualist practice, if you're a spirit medium and you're clairaudient, you hear what the spirits are telling you. What they're actually saying is words. And they will use words that you don't use, and they will use speech patterns that you don't use. And when you say those things directly back to their sons or daughters or family members you're sitting with, they know that that is their person, because that is exactly the way something that their person used to say. What's interesting is spirits have very little energy, and the spirit medium is using a lot of physical energy and just plain old energy, chi, in order to get that connection to work. But when you're with other people, we all have a lot of physical energy, and we all have a lot of physical body, spiritual component energy in our systems. It's actually a lot easier to be empathetic or telepathic or clairaudient with somebody who's alive than it is with somebody who's passed to the other side of the veil. Now, there's all this stuff about, well, you have to be so advanced in order to be able to do this. But I think that this idea of hierarchy and advancement is really covering up the fact that, no, you just need to be able to recognize it when you're doing it. You need to have validation when it happens. You need to be able to test it. So I take a more scientific approach to it. It's like, can you verify that that is actually something that this person would say? Or can you go to a person who's in a body and find out if they were actually thinking that? And when you can verify that, and hopefully the person you ask is going to be honest with you, because if they're not, then that's a whole other can of worms. But when you can verify it, then you start to recognize what it looks like and feels like and presences as to be telepathic. It's just about getting into that zone, but knowing where to go to get into that zone, or recognizing when you are in that zone, and then energetically repeating the process, having the intention to energetically repeat that process. I'm more nuts and bolts, I think, about this than most.
And I understand where you're going, that there is a scientific scale to this, but how does the average layman, or lay people, because I'm in Canada here, I can't say layman anymore, I got to say lay people, figure out whether or not they are actually communicating? Because there are times when I think all of us have had that situation happen where we're wishing upon something, or we're so connected to something and it happens and we're not sure how that happened.
Well, that's not telepathy, that's manifestation. But if you're curious about telepathy, and you think you're picking up on something from someone else, and you think that they're going to be honest with you, ask them. And that's what's really scary, is you find out when you start doing this how scared people are to be very close with each other about what they're thinking, what they're feeling, what they're going through. I mean, people are, by and large, often very boarded up because they feel afraid of what other people's, not man's or women's, reactions will be to their thoughts, to their feelings, to whatever is going on with them. And so usually if somebody's going through something difficult, it's usually at that point that you'll be more likely to pick up on it telepathically, because they're putting a lot of energy into thinking about it. And when they're putting a lot of energy into thinking about it, that energy is spilling over to you, and your brain is processing that energy like it would your own thoughts. But because it's something that is conflicted to them, or they're putting so much energy into, they may not be as willing to talk about it. It's the kind of thing where you start the conversation and you kind of have to ask the question, I'm wondering, hey, how are you feeling about such and such and such? Because if you picked it up, you should have enough information to ask the question, how are you feeling about such and such and such? And when they tell you, and it confirms what you were getting from them, then you have your validation. Okay, so when I feel like this, when I sense it's coming from that person, the best thing I can do is to ask, because that allows me to get a gauge of where I'm at energetically when I'm picking up on telepathic messages. But like I said, it'll often be the stressed out things that you'll pick up on first versus the I'm just having a lovely day, or everything's okay, or yeah, blah, it's all right. It'll usually be either extreme emotion, extreme happiness, extreme joy, or something's wrong. And something is wrong is usually easier than any of the above. But something's wrong for people is harder to get, it's harder to insert yourself in there by asking the question, hey, how are you feeling about whatever it is that's wrong, without getting a reaction from somebody. Animals, if they're sick and you think you know what you're getting from them, you think you know what it is, take them to a vet and find out. Animals will always tell you the truth, except for cats. Cats will lie about who peed where. They just do that.
Cats are just jerks. Cats are just jerks. Although I'm pretty fortunate. I got 2 cats that are pretty tame. We just actually took in a stray that looks much like Garfield right now. Much like Garfield. We're going to test out lasagna with him.
Oh, that's awesome.
I
love Garfield kitties.
Yes. Yeah. So we just got him, and he is all right. He doesn't like dogs. But this guy, he's a big, big kitty, man, and he's not fat at all. He is very stocky and muscular, because I think he was probably dodging wolves, foxes, and coyotes for a while before he decided to find a new home with us, which I'm very much okay with, because, I'm an animal guy. I really am an animal guy. And, telepathically speaking, though, can they understand? Let's start with our household pets here for a second. Can they understand what we are saying? Because it is said that a dog can, knows so many words. A cat knows a lot more, but just doesn't give a care. Because that's just the way cats are. Do they fully understand and comprehend what we are saying if they are able to talk about this telepathically?
Well, when you make words, when you're making words, because you're a people's, or when you think about something and you decide to express yourself about it, you normally will have a vision in your head or an idea in your head that you are going to talk about. So if they don't understand the words, they will actually get how you perceive of what you're talking about in your head. So if you're a visual thinker, they'll get the visuals. If you're an auditory thinker, they'll get the auditory. If you're a somatic, if you think of in emotions, and they'll get the emotions of what you're saying. And they'll get all of the above. So it's really important to pay attention to how you think. And this is where meditation comes in. And everybody's going to groan and go, oh my God, I got to meditate. Yeah, you kind of have to meditate some in order to get yourself to the point where you can recognize how you feel and how you think about things when you think about them. So I'm a very visual thinker, and I'm a very emotional, somatic thinker. I have emotions show up in my body, and I feel things in the body very clearly. Not very many people feel things as somatically as I do, or perceive things as somatically as I do. So that makes me a wonderful animal communicator, because I know exactly where the pain is, and then I'm a visual thinker, so then I can zero in on it, and it's like I have X-ray vision, because my visual thinking is looking at it. So I'm very strong, and I'm pretty good with clairaudience, But somatically, visually, and then clairaudiently, I'm good. But somatically, I'm probably at the top of the charts for people who feel things. But meditation is how you get to that. Meditation is how you begin to understand, this is how I work. This is how I perceive things. And when I'm perceiving something and I'm reacting to it, because it's all about reacting to it. And, Zen meditation is simply understanding, and even Tibetan meditation, it's noticing your mind. It's noticing your mind working and moving, and it's noticing how you are reacting to whatever it is your mind that comes to your mind. Whatever it is you think about it, something could be your mother making you a chocolate cake for your birthday when you were 10 might come to mind. And then how do you react to that? Do you see the chocolate cake? Do you smell the chocolate cake? Do you look forward to it with anticipation? Do you feel love? Do you feel anxious? So, and where do you feel it? Do you feel it in your stomach? Do you feel it in your bones? We don't, as a Western culture, by and large, take the time to pay attention to how we as individuals process the information that comes to us, and how we as a greater being, where the mind is not just the brain, but it's also in your big toe, and it's in your knee, and it's in your hip, how we process information, how we feel about it, and how we react to it. We don't pay attention to that. If we start to pay attention to that and we become very aware of how we process information and how we react to information, we will also be able to become aware of how other beings around us are processing information and are reacting to information. And we'll also be able to become aware of the difference between another being or person or people or man and ourselves. Because there's always a slight difference in energy and how a different being presents. Their energy is always slightly different. But when we're really aware of ourselves, we can become really aware of the other at the same time. And that's where meditation comes in. And some people say, well, shouldn't I just meditate to ascend and become enlightened? Well, part of ascending and becoming enlightened is becoming part of the whole and part of the one, and compassionate and loving and accepting and allowing. And when you realize that every other being has feelings just like you, that helps with that process just as much as just sitting there and contemplating your navel.
Couple questions coming from Spreaker, and we do want to remind you the phone lines are open at 1-702-302-4556. That's 1-702-302-4556. If you want to talk to Elizabeth about telepathy or anything else spiritual, remember this is not a readings show. Liz will not be doing any readings tonight, but questions for your own knowledge of learning about your own spirituality. That's what it's all about on the Spiritual You. Guy in the chat room is saying, what if you only heard things telepathically about yourself, but nothing else? How do you even ask someone about it?
Only heard things telepathically about yourself. Man, somebody is really interested in you. It sounds like you're interested in you. I think I need more information. If you only hear things telepathically about yourself, I would check yourself first about whether or not that's actually happening, because most people and most beings are not often thinking about someone else all that much. I know that sounds rude, but because we are individualized beings, we tend to spend a lot more time thinking about ourselves. So if you're only hearing things about yourself, check with yourself if you're not just thinking that people are thinking things at you. And if you want to, you can approach somebody and ask them very gently, were you thinking that whatever whatever it is. Now, I would really need to know if you are thinking that people are thinking negative things about you, because that speaks to another problem. Or I would, to be more specific. But if people are only thinking things about you, and that's the only time you can receive telepathic information, something's going on. And you might want to check that, like meditate more, check with yourself more.
All right, let's get to the next question. Telepathic children. A lot of people are more telepathic because they're more in tune as a child. Yvonne says that she got into a lot of trouble with adults back then. As parents, do you really have to watch what you say in front of your kids, because kids are able to have this ability a little bit more?
You can't help it. If you have a kid with any ability, that kid will know. And that kid may not, it's better if they come to you and directly say something about whatever it is. It doesn't matter what you say. If you're a parent and say, a mother and father in another room, and you're having a conversation about the child or something you're going to do, and your kid is open, they're before the age of 9 or 10, which is, somewhere around the age of 9, a lot of stuff happens and they start to individuate more and things close off. But kids with any ability between, birth and then will just absolutely absorb whatever energy and information you're putting out. And you don't need to tell them. So you just have to be prepared for the fact that they're going to know things, and because they have the power of speech, they're going to know things as well as your dog or your cat or your horse does, but they have the power of human speech. They're going to be telling you about them. So get over it, because whatever it is that they tell you, it's not that somebody necessarily told them, it's that they got that information, they processed it, and they decided that they wanted to talk to you about it, and so have the conversation when it comes up. Kids are awesome that way, and that they're very much like animals. It's just animals can't tell people what they already know about a situation because they don't have the power of human speech.
We only got about 4 minutes here before we got to go to break, Liz. A very first hour, or fast first hour, I should say. I just want to get to Stockton's question here. It is very off topic. He says, what is the coin trick everyone is talking about? This is for
yeah,
Yes. This is for if you think you are an ET abductee or having some sort of ET contact and you're not sure whether or not you are being taken. What I suggest to people, and I heard this from one of my guests a couple years ago, is take 2 quarters or 2 silver dollars, whatever. You put them on your nightstand, someplace where you're not going to be able to reach them. Okay, or knock them over or anything. You put them side by side, and you put the intention out there before you go to bed every night that basically says, okay, if I'm taken tonight, either get me to stack the coins or get them, when they put me back, to stack the coins. Many people who have tried this, who listen to this show, actually have woken up with their coins stacked. So that's the coin trick. If you're an ET abductee and you want to know, or strange things are happening, is it a proven test? No, of course not. You might need if you don't believe it, put a trail camera in your bedroom or some sort of GoPro or something along those lines. But on the flip side, if you are experienced and you are a believer and you don't need a lot of proof to know what's going on, you just needs a little bit of convincing, the coin trick is for you. Liz, are you a fan of the coin trick?
We had the half a glass of water trick. So what we did was we programmed ourselves to pour half a glass of water and leave it beside, or a little bit more if we knew we were going to get thirsty in the night. But basically it was that you would down the rest of the water if you got abducted. So if you woke up in the morning and the glass of water was empty, that meant that you had been abducted, and as you were coming back and you had the presence of mind to give yourself a message, you would down the rest of the water. And then you would also find out earlier because you'd probably have to get up around 5 o'clock and go to the bathroom. So, it was like, hey, I had to go to the bathroom. Oh, look, there, I downed that glass of water. So, that we didn't have the coin trick because of the cat thing. Because cats knock everything off the flat earth, we did the glass of water. So you can do that too.
Are there any other little tricks that you can pass on to people who want to know?
You can do telltales on things. I would look up how to do telltales, like the little telltale red strings. My friend Steve Walsky, who's passed, was a Green Beret. He was in the Defense Intelligence Agency, and he started doing telltales, and those really worked for him. But he knew how to do them because he had been trained to do that sort of thing. But there are ways. That's the only other way. Let me see. Somebody was doing something with their shoes. Like they would put their shoes beside their bed in a certain position, and if they had been abducted, they would move them to be in a different position. So that's another way. And cats can't knock your shoes onto the floor if they're already on the floor. So.
Damn cats! It always comes down to the cats ruining everything. It does. I would assume that the cats would actually, in the presence of aliens, would actually take off. But we'll get to that right after this, because we got to step out for our first break of the night. Elizabeth Anglin is our guest tonight on The Spiritual You. We talk about the spiritual side of the paranormal the first Tuesday of every month. Elizabeth will be back on with us in March on... Well, I don't know. I don't have that date booked yet. We'll figure it out. It'll be next month somewhere where we'll talk about it. You're listening to Spaced Out Radio. I'm your host, Dave Scott. We'll be back right after this.
Find your escape where time has no limits. It's about living today and cherishing the heritage of yesterday. A spirit of adventure for what is new with the nostalgia of the past. Your timepiece is a reflection of who you are. Life surrounded by beauty from the world around us to the soul within. EscapeWatches.com. There is no time like the present to enjoy your escape. Use promo code SMF2017 for your 20% discount today.
Lori and Fenton here, SOR listeners. Join me at UFOCon 2018 in South San Francisco, California, March 23rd through 25th, where 14 presenters discuss all things disclosure, UFOs, and aliens. Stephen Bassett, Grant Cameron, and Melinda Leslie address disclosure. Preston Dennett will present Inside UFOs. Your Dave Scott and Lynn Buchanan tell of amazing alien contact. Get tickets at caufocon.com.
The freedom to post what you want, when you want. That's the social media freedom you need. Social Media Freedom is the free app in your app store. No need to worry about going to jail or being shadow banned any longer. It's the freedom to say what you feel. The freedom to know Big Brother isn't watching. It's the way social media is supposed to be. Social Media Freedom. It's time to set yourself free. Download from your app store today.
Coming September 28th to the 30th, it's our first annual Caribou Paracon, put on by Spaced Out Radio and the Canadian Society of Questers. 3 days of paranormal, supernatural, and spiritual knowledge in the beautiful 108 Mile Ranch, British Columbia. Tickets are $150 Canadian for the event, being held at the Spruce Hills Resort and Spa. Come watch our featured speaker, Grant Cameron, along with Laurie and Fenton, David Weatherly, Ross Allison, and more. The Caribou Paracon, celebrating everything paranormal.
Hey Space Travelers, it's Joe Roop, your host of Spaced Out Saturdays. Come join me as we explore the realms of the paranormal, the esoteric, and everything in between every Saturday night at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern. You know the truth is out there. Don't get caught sleepwalking. Come join Spaced Out Saturdays. That's every Saturday night, 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, right here on SpacedOutRadio.com.
Psychic Sundays, spiritual communication, ET contact, Sasquatch in your backyard. We will have it all on Cosmic Passport with me, Elizabeth Anglin. Each Sunday, starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, at spacedoutradio.com, I will take you on a journey of enlightenment. The goal is learning from the soul on out. We'd love it if you joined our experience. Cosmic Passport, heard Sundays at spacedoutradio.com.
365 days a year, we're in the field, investigating UFO sightings, talking to alien abductees, and visiting secret military locations like Area 51. We're UFO Seekers, official partner of Spaced Out Radio. Follow our daily search for the truth at ufoseekers.com or like us on social media. Catch us on Spaced Out Radio every third Monday of the month as we discuss Area 51, UFOs, and more. And also, don't forget to subscribe to us on YouTube.
From coast to coast to coast, Blacklight Uncharted is taking on the paranormal across Canada. From ghostly hauntings to the UFOs flying above in conjunction with MUFON Canada, we're closely investigating what's going on in the northern skies and checking out the apparitions that walk among us. Check out our videos right here at spacedoutradio.com. We want to know your thoughts, we want to hear your experiences, and we want you to share your stories. The answers are out there, and we intend to find them.
It's paranormal news at its finest. Welcome to The Encounter. At spacedoutradio.com, The Encounter online is SOR's trusted news source for everything weird and strange going on around the world. This is news editor Eric Markham. Our team of journalists are scouring the planet for those strange stories that rarely make the mainstream. No fear-mongering or fake news here. Head over to spacedoutradio.com and encounter The Encounter.
Want to learn more about aliens, cover-ups, conspiracies, cryptids, and the paranormal? All you have to do is tune in S4 as we take over Spaced Out Radio Night, starting at midnight Pacific, 3 a.m. Eastern, each and every Saturday night, right after Spaced Out Saturdays. Hi there, this is Eric Cooper from Forest Moon Paranormal. Join me, Corey Ruiz, and friends as we discuss the hot topics of the night. It's fun, entertaining, and as dark as the night. Find us at spacedoutradio.com.
Are you interested in advertising on Spaced Out Radio? Head to our website at spacedoutradio.com and click on our advertising tab. There, you will find an assortment of ways you can get your product out there with us, from radio commercials to banners and social media. Have a product you like our hosts to endorse? We can do that too. Visit spacedoutradio.com for more details.
Do you want to know what's really going on in your world? Do you have questions about who you can trust in the mainstream media? Then look no further than the Rebel Planet. Come get the straight answers right here at spacedoutradio.com. Join me, Jamie Sexton, creator of Rebel Planet News, as I fill you in on the stories behind the stories. All you truth seekers, be sure to tune in to Rebel Planet on spacedoutradio.com the third Thursday of every month.
Hey, this is Canadian Paranormal Investigator Mike Moore. The third Wednesday of every month, I'll be teaming up with Dave Scott to bring you Ghosts of the Great White North. Each month, we will bring on guests from across Canada to discuss their ghostly encounters. Canada is a paranormal hotbed with stories you've never heard, so we're going to bring them to you. So get comfy on your Chesterfield, grab a donut, and join us, eh?
The views and opinions expressed by tonight's guest and topic of discussion do not necessarily represent the official policy or position of Spaced Out Radio, Spaced Out Weekend, Spaced Out Radio Limited, its hosts, syndicated carriers, or anyone associated with this broadcast. Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. And hit us up on Twitter using the hashtag SpacedOutRadio. Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
Welcome back to the second hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott. Great to have you with us. Tomorrow night on the program, Jackie Chin is going to join us. We're going to talk about vampires. We're going to talk about zombies. her own psychic abilities and how she lived with that for so long. We're going to get going at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern Time at spacedoutradio.com. We want to welcome in everyone listening in on WQEE 99 Rock the Key down in Noonan, Georgia, home of The Walking Dead. We are live as well on the United Public Radio Network, 107.7 FM in New Orleans, and over 160 countries around the world. We are also live on The Fringe FM, and if you're listening in on Revolution Radio, remember, the Double R Machine is a donation station financed by you, the valued listener. Head on over to revolution.radio and donate today. Bill Cardwell has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Archaeogenetics. Archaeogenetics is your password. Use it wisely, space travelers, as Bill sets the password each and every night right here on the mighty SOR. Now, if you want to follow us on social media, we are live every night on this show on periscope.tv. Hi, everyone. Good to have you with us. We're also on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. Use the hashtag Spaced Out Radio if you want to connect with me live during the show as well. You can give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. On Instagram, follow me at Dave Scott, SOR. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Go to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. We would appreciate that. We are on iHeartRadio in the United States. TalkStream Live. Tune us in on TuneIn. Download and subscribe to our shows on iTunes. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including joining the SOR Space Travelers Club for $5 a month. Rock out to some Bumblefoot. Read up on the encounter online. Shop at the Spaced Out Radio store, or watch great videos from UFO Seekers and Contact TV. Tonight on The Spiritual You, Elizabeth Anglin joins us as we do this show once a month, usually the first Tuesday of the month, where we sit back, relax, and chill out to some serious discussion about spirituality, intuition, telepathy, wherever the topic may go. We are opening up the phone lines to you, 1-702-302-4556. That's 1-702-302-4556. Liz, welcome back. This is where you got to turn off your mute button.
It is off.
There
Can you
go.
hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
There we go.
Oh.
There we go. All right. I nailed that password. I'm pretty happy about that.
You did.
Yes, I was confident. Going into that password. Anyhow, Liz, we got a couple questions from our audience. Gail is asking on Periscope, Liz, could you please tell us your Bigfoot experience and the telepathy behind that?
Oh, which one? So what my original Bigfoot type experience had to do with teaching a second-degree Reiki class, which is sending healing to people or animals or places or things at a distance. And I was teaching this class, and I left it open to, I said, a neat thing about this is you can, if you don't know if something exists or not, if you don't know, if something is really real, or you want to find out more about it, or what its experience of life is, or what it needs, you can send Reiki to it. So, and I was explaining how I had seen a right whale once when I was on a whale watch, and it was the most fascinating, beautiful, haunting feeling seeing this right whale. And so I had sent Reiki back to this right whale at the time that I was viewing it on this whale watch. And I got a sense of what it needed at the time and how it was feeling and how it was for that whale to be looking at the boat I was on. And so I asked the students, is there any being or anything you would like to send Reiki to, just on a whim, to find out if it's actually there and if it has any feelings about things? And one of the students says, I'd really like to find out if Yeti is real. And I said, well, can we narrow that down to a particular Yeti? How about the oldest living Yeti? Because that'll be just one. There can only be one that is the oldest one. And she said, sure. So we all started sending Reiki to the oldest living Yeti. And what happened was the student's eyes popped open, and mine, like my eyes got big. We all got really big eyes, and we were all sort of feeling the same thing. And I was getting female, pregnant, and about to deliver and very uncomfortable. And I went around and before I said anything, I said, "Carol, what do you get?" She got female, pregnant, very uncomfortable. And the next person, female, pregnant, very uncomfortable. So we had, three of us all going female, pregnant, very uncomfortable. And that was my first experience with a telepathic communication with a quote-unquote Bigfoot, was a Yeti, which was nowhere near as big as Bigfoot. She was actually shorter than all of us. She was about 5'1". Just basically like a smaller, hairy human, hominoid. But after that point, I started having conversations with her pretty regularly until she died. And it was very interesting to get her take on things. And that left me open to communication with Bigfoot. And I told this story on another show. And Thomas Hughes contacted me and he said, "Well, do you ever talk to Bigfoot?" And I said, "No, because I don't know any Bigfoot." And he said, "Here, I'll introduce you." And he introduced me to the leader of the Bigfoot band on the Uncompahgre Plateau where I was living. And we started having conversations from then on. So that was interesting and different. Can you hear me?
Oh, I'm hearing you. I'm hearing you just fine. Just fine. Just, little concerned about the Dutch invasion on the Spreaker chat room right there. Very. Yeah, the Dutch invasion has happened. That's okay, though. That's okay. Anyhow, another question about Bigfoot coming up here comes from John. He is asking, Liz, were you ever given knowledge to how long Yetis or Bigfoot can live?
Well, the Yetis have a lot of problems because they have been living in an area where the Chinese were doing a lot of nuclear testing, and they're also having genetic issues. I think that their lifespan would, from talking to this woman, she was still having children, but she was the oldest living Yeti. So I'm thinking she was like 35 or 40, maybe 41. So she would have been like prehistoric, very similar to what mankind or people kind was living back in the day before they had medical care and were living kind of rough. Now, Bigfoot, I'm kind of vibing on the two different types. I think Bigfoot live longer than Yetis, but I'm not sure that they have a lifespan that's, unless they're an Echo, which is the more interdimensional alien one, I don't think they have a lifespan that's significantly different than people kind's lifespan at this point in time. Anywhere from 40 to 80, because sometimes people conk out in their 40s, they're just done. But I think you can also get older Bigfoot. I think it's very similar. Given from the old man that I talked to, he seemed to be, let me just think. He was in his late 60s when he passed away, but he got sick from something. He wasn't all that old, and he wasn't failing. He just got sick. So,
switching over to intuition here, as we kind of move into that, a lot of people, when it comes to animals or situations out in the wilderness, their intuition seems to pick up a little bit, where all of a sudden they start picking up energies of animals. A lot of people will say, I'll give you an example. My neighbor, him and I were talking about it. He works for forestry up here in the forest industry. And he was talking about one day about his intuition. He was not feeling right, had that entire feeling that he was being watched. And as he started to walk back to his vehicle, all of a sudden there was a wolf on the path. And up here, where there's one wolf, there's usually 8 or 9, maybe more, in the pack. And so that entire time that he was out there, he knew he was being watched, and now he knew what he was being watched by. So I'm just wondering, when it comes to that type of intuition, how do you people all of a sudden tune into that? Is it nature? Is it the environment? Or is it something more deep down?
It's something it's genetic. It's in our genes to be able to be aware of things so that we can keep ourselves safe, keep ourselves in our physical bodies. So, mother's intuition is a real thing. And if you have an intuition that you're about to go do something and it's not going to go well, pay attention to that, especially if you're Evel Knievel and you're deciding to try to jump over the Grand Canyon. You might want to cancel it that day. That sort of intuition is part of our genetic protection. And it's meant to protect us. It's meant to keep us safe. It's meant to keep us in our physical body. Pay attention to it. You may also but when you're out in the wilderness, you do, by and large, energetically expand because you have more room. When we're walking around in a city, most of us, we will basically contract our energy field. So there are some people who say, in the emotion code clearing work I do, Dr. Nelson, who teaches it, says everybody is 12 feet across. Some people are more, some people are less, but your energy field is 12 feet across on average. So if you're in a town like New York City and there are just a ton of people walking through that 12 feet, you may contract that 12 feet so that you don't have to feel all of those people going through your energy field. You don't do it consciously, you do it unconsciously, subconsciously, because it's hard having 12 people walk through your energy field. When you live someplace like the Uncompahgre Plateau or you're up camping and there aren't very many people around, you can expand out your energy field as, pretty dang far. And it just depends on how much energy you have, how much you can expand it. And when you do, you're going to be aware of whatever being is in your energy field. So if you expand it out 50, 60 feet, you're going to be aware of anything within 50 or 60 feet of you. And it's easier to do that when there are fewer people around because, what are 50, 60 more feet of trees and birds and generally things that aren't threatening? Oh, wait, look, something just crossed my field and it is threatening. Oh, that's a wolf, that's a bear, that's a mountain lion. It's time to go back to the cabin. This is how we work our body is interesting. Our energy body is interesting in that it can expand and contract. And when it's expanded, we'll feel whatever is in it. And in the woods, you can feel a lot more because you do expand.
Question coming from Twitter, and I do want to remind people we are taking phone calls at 1-702-302-4556. Andrew is asking, when you performed your psychic communication with the pregnant Yeti and you acknowledged the being is similar to ancient humans, then how do you know you weren't communicating through time to an ancient pregnant early human?
We did in our protocols ask for the oldest living Yeti right now. And I'm very specific about protocols, about when, because second degree Reiki can be sent forward in time. It can be stored up for later use. It can be sent backwards in time. It can be sent to a parallel reality. It can be sent to somebody who's on the other side of the veil. It can be sent across the universe. It can be sent beyond the universe. In order to please BTO, yes, you can send it beyond the universe, but you need to understand and target very specifically if you're going to do that kind of work. And so we did target the oldest living Yeti right now, not the oldest living Yeti that ever was, the oldest living Yeti right now. And I had further conversations with her that did where I learned things about her situation that were in time with what was happening on Earth at this time that she was aware of from where she was. So, you do pick a time frame when you're going to target that.
Gail is asking on Periscope, Liz, have you ever remote viewed Bigfoot?
Yes, quite often. And usually they'll become aware of me when I remote view them because I tend to bilocate. And so I'm not the most stealthy bilocator as far as they're concerned. But, they've not ever been too upset because it's usually Bigfoot that I've been, Thomas introduced me to the old man. He called him the old man. He wanted to be called the old man. He introduced me to his family, and then he introduced me to others. And so I was once asked to remote view and be part of a Bigfoot band meeting that was had in Colorado. And that was very interesting. They didn't want me to say anything, but they allowed me to watch it and to see what they were talking about because they were having issues with a vet who was up in Golden, Colorado, who was having a lot of problems. He had lost his family. He had PTSD, and he was connecting with a Bigfoot who had lost his family and had PTSD, but the Bigfoot he was connecting with had a tendency to be violent. And they were afraid that this vet was going to get in trouble if this Bigfoot he was connecting with had PTSD and got violent with him. And so I was there as the human representative, to weigh in if I had any opinion, which they seemed to have it covered. That was interesting.
Catalina is asking, how does downloads change your spirituality?
Downloads changes, I'm going to take several steps back, Catalina, and talk about having a teacher before we talk about downloads. Now with the internet, you'll find people are putting up, information that you can learn how to do certain spiritual practices online at a distance. What I would tell you is that there is definitely something called transmission, and there is definitely energy transmission from spiritual teachers to students. And the best way to learn something that a particular teacher knows is to be in their physical presence in order to receive the transmission of that energy. Because you're in their energy field, they're in your energy field, and it basically sets your energy field to their level. And I've experienced this time and time again as a Reiki master where I'll set students to my level, and not only will they attain the level I'm at, they'll go beyond it. Like they'll get bumped up a couple more because I really want them to do well. That's part of my intention is like, I want you to be like, go as far as you can with this. So boom, we're bumping you up, and it's an energy. It changes the energy structure of the student to have this sort of transmission. A similar thing with a download, but downloads are quote unquote, they can be coming from, light beings. They can be coming from alien races. They can be coming across time. They can be coming from yourself in the future, but it is again an energy transmission. The problem is you may not know because you're not willfully, actively engaged in a conscious class with whether this is you, whether this is your guides, whether this is some light beings, whether this is some aliens. You may not actually know what it's doing until you present some new ability or some new skill. So it becomes a little like, if you say I'm getting downloads and you get all woo-woo about that, it's like, well, do you really know what they're doing? And it's like, woo, yay. But what is it going to do? You just sort of have to trust that hopefully it'll do good things and it'll help you in some way, or it'll help you help other people in some way. But it's the exact same thing as going to It's basically the whole process is the same as going to a teacher who is an actual spiritual teacher who does have some sort of spiritual energy to transmit to you. It's just these are spiritual teachers who aren't in physical bodies, and you can't have a real-time conscious conversation with them.
Guy wants to know, do you suggest Reiki or Reiki, whatever the hell you want to pronounce it and call it these days, for everyone? And if so, do you have advice for choosing a specific type or telltales of a golden teacher?
A golden teacher. Okay. Reiki is a tool, so that's the first thing. It's not a cult. It's a tool. It's not. Should be no dogma attached to it. You should be able to use it any way you want. So, hopefully, your ethics are good, because people can try to use it for things they shouldn't. But anyway, how to answer this? I suggest it for nearly everyone, but for some people, you need to. What I have found happening is that people are taking classes from teachers who are at a distance, who are teaching too quickly, who are adding symbols and information that has nothing to do with Reiki, and so makes people confused, that they feel like they don't know enough and they don't know how to use it. What you need is a teacher who, when you learn first degree, will give you 4 initiations, and those 4 initiations should be spaced out at minimum 3.5 hours apart, but even better is 24 hours apart, so that your body can adjust to the energy. That teacher should teach you how to treat yourself comfortably and every single day. That teacher should teach you that everybody has spiritual equality. Nobody is higher or lower than anybody else. That teacher should teach you the 5 principles, which is just for today, do not worry. Just for today, do not anger. Honor your parents, your teachers, your neighbors, your friends. Give thanks for every living thing and earn your living honestly. Those principles are really important, and they should teach you why they're important. They should teach you the history of Reiki from Mikao Usui on. If they want to do more, that's supposition. They should teach you how to treat another person comfortably and professionally. And you cannot do that sort of training in less than 2.5 days and really get the full benefit of it, because you don't have time for the initiations. That is my opinion, and I'm really stuck on that opinion after 24 years of being a Reiki master. So, a golden teacher is one who's willing to take the time to teach you how to do it. They may be available for you after, but they shouldn't need to be available for you that much. They will also not teach you first, second, and master's degree in a weekend. If they're doing first and second, they'll make you wait at least a month between first and second degree. And then if they're going to teach you a master's, they'll do it by apprenticeship, and they'll allow you to pay them over time. But they will have you come to classes, learn how to teach, learn how to give multiple treatments, and learn how to be comfortable. The first year that you practice Reiki, or even the first few months, it's actually not that comfortable to do, to stand and stay in one position and put your hands on people on a table. It actually takes some doing to learn how to get comfortable. And, it's not just a throwaway thing to take that time to learn. So any teacher will do, as long as they're doing those things. And they're initiating you. The initiations have to be real. They can't be fake.
I got to tell you, I was absolutely thinking way back when that Reiki was just a load of crap, did not work, a bunch of BS, so on and so forth. And Mrs. SOR wanted to go get her Reiki master. So I said, yeah, go for it. If it's going to make you happy, we got the money, go do it. She felt she needed to do it. And a couple months later, we really, really got backstabbed by 2 sets of friends, 2 couples that we hung out with. And one of them actually ended up casting a spell on me, which I had on for a while. Anyways, long story short, my back was killing me. I was walking hunched over, and Jolene finally comes up to me and she's like, let me try this on you. And I said, okay. So I'm in my old office, and I'm sitting there on my chair, and I've got it swiveled backwards. And she goes, tell me when you feel the pain. She got about 2 feet from me. 2 feet, not 2.5. 2 feet from me. And I was screaming in pain. And I'm like, back off, because it felt like there was actual daggers going into my back. And she Reiki'd my back for about 30 minutes, and it felt fantastic. And ever since that episode, I have been a huge, huge fan of Reiki. And I am a very big believer in it working. Very big believer.
Yeah, it's really good stuff, and for the money that you would pay to learn to do it, it's probably the most affordable, very good healing, energy healing, and also spiritual transformation healing that you can sign up for in the Western world. I mean, take a first-degree Reiki class, and now I think they're at $200 for a workshop for most people, or they should be around there. Maybe they're slightly more, or slightly less, depending on the person. But they're also, they're related to Vajrayana yoga of the Tibetans, to Tibetan tantric yoga, which is, it clears everything. That's what it's meant to do, is to clear out everything that is an obscuration of consciousness, whether that consciousness be mental, emotional, physical, in the etheric body, in the catheric body, backwards in time, forwards in time. And when you get cleared out, it helps you attain enlightenment more quickly, but it also helps you have realizations, which are spiritual realizations. So Reiki can help you get out of pain quicker than anything. I have had people, I fixed somebody's broken toe one day. It was a coworker, and she got stomped on by a horse, and her toe was broken. And before we could get the ambulance there, she said, "Will you Reiki my toe?" And I Reiki'd her toe, and we felt it. She felt it all knit back together. Didn't need the ambulance. Ended up working the rest of the day. I mean, it's just amazing stuff that should not even be possible to do just with energy. It's very, very powerful stuff. And I recommend it for most people. If you have seizures, if you have bad epilepsy, I'd be very careful with it. And if you are psychotic, I'd be very, very careful with it, because you can go off into realms you shouldn't go into. There are some people where it can knock them off emotionally for a while, or if they're epileptic, it can knock them off for a while. But if you go into it with, people have been healed from epilepsy by doing lots of Reiki, but lots of Reiki with their help around them to get out of their seizures. So,
Let's go to Teresa's question. She is asking, what can she expect, or how can she prepare for an energy clearing session? She wants to make the most out of her appointment with Paul in 2 weeks, and she's kind of scared.
Oh, don't be scared of Paul ever. he's like okay, so he's like a dog.
Is that Liz? I have to interrupt here. Is that the same thing that he did with me?
That was Nathan.
Oh, Nathan. Okay.
That was Nathan Main. She's going to go see Paul Simons, and I'm hoping Paul will be on Saturday. He might have a conflict. We'll see. But Paul Simons is like, the dog that comes in the snowstorm on the mountain that saves you, the Saint Bernard. Paul's like the Saint Bernard who shows up, and he's very excited about what he's doing, and he sort of slobbers all over, but no, he doesn't slobber all over, but he's like, the dog who comes and saves you in the snowstorm. You'll never be afraid of that dog. So just drink a lot of water and don't be afraid, and don't worry, it'll be fine. And don't, anything he identifies as being a problem, he's going to clear it so you don't have to worry about it. Yeah, have a good time. I just say drink a lot of water, have a good time, get your rest.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Back to the intuition, as doesn't seem like anybody wants to call in, so if you do, 1702-302-4556 is the phone number. 1702-302-4556. We'll give those numbers out there again, but I want to get back to intuition here for a few seconds. When you are dealing with, say, cryptid animals or extraterrestrials in regards to this, and this is maybe combined with the telepathy of both creatures, because I do believe that you can communicate with one or the other. Do you find that, or what symptoms, let me ask you this, what symptoms or what signs should a person take to know that they are in the presence of, say, a cryptid creature? And it doesn't even have to be just Bigfoot. It could be fairies, it could be gnomes, it could be gargoyles, or anything along those lines. Dogman. But how does a person know? How can they trust their intuition and not think that it's just an overactive imagination?
Well, you have to get training. I'm all for getting training. Learn your clairvoyance, your clairaudience, your clairsentience, your clairsomaticism, and practice. So my path looked like I was sick. I had, in 1994, I'd been doing the alien abduction research. I was tired out. I had done media. The media was awful. PsyCop got involved. It was awful. I was trying to work full-time and go to school full-time and do this research at the same time. It was awful. And I ended up getting chronic fatigue, fibromyalgia for 2 years. And nothing. And the doctors couldn't do anything for me. And mainly I was sick because I was angry. I was angry at humankind or people kind for not listening to the message. I was angry for people for being mean and bullying. I was angry because the aliens were showing me terrible things about to happen to the planet and nobody was listening. And I was tired. And I was also doing major spiritual warfare with people who and beings who didn't want me getting the message out. When I learned Reiki, what happened was my telepathic abilities got stronger. My clairaudience, my clairvoyance got stronger. Every one of the clairs got stronger. And as I practiced and I purified my energy body, my physical body, my emotional body, doing more and more Reiki, the first thing that happened is I went into remission within 6 weeks from chronic fatigue, my fibromyalgia. The second thing is I presenced very strongly animal communication, where I was receiving both clairaudient, clairsomatic, and clairvoyant information from animals at the veterinary surgical place that I was working at. It was the best veterinary surgeon in the Four Corners area was where I worked. And I was getting information from the horses that were coming in, and I was sharing them with the vet, and that way I was getting validation. And then I was working on people, and as I started working on people, I was having medical intuitive information come to me, and then I was having angels come to me to give information and guides come to me to give information. And when I would be direct with people and tell them, I have a lady here, she looks like this, she's telling me this, she wants to tell you such and such and such, and this is what's stressing you out, and she thinks you should probably do this instead. They'd say, that's my mom, or that's my Grandma May. So part of it is doing the work in order to know. You have to do the work in order to know. You can't just say, there's no little tip or a trick. Like, you can't read a book and say, well, I've read that, if I see this series of numbers in a row, that means that somebody's trying to talk to me from spirit. Guess what? You'll start to go nuts if you do that. I've seen people go nuts on that stuff, looking for, if I hear this 2 beeps in my right ear, then that means that there's a spirit present. give it up, stop, don't even go there. Like, learn a practice and do your practice. If you want to become a spirit medium, learn how to be a spirit medium. If you want to learn Reiki, just go do it. It's so cheap and it's so accessible. And then if you want to be a spirit medium or an animal communicator or a telepath and be an animal communicator and look for cryptids, go do it. But you have to have the experience in order to learn what the experience is. You have to put yourself in the situation of thinking that you've got something, asking the question to who is right there in that experience with you. Are you getting this? I feel this about that. Is that actually true? It helps when you work with scientists. It helps when you work with doctors. It helps when you work with veterinarians. It helps when you work with people. And you actually ask them, tell them you're willing to step forward and say, I have this lady here and she's saying this and this and this and this. And do you know if any of this is true? And she says, and they say, yeah, that's May. And yeah, that's true. And yeah, this has been going on. Then you begin to know what it feels like to see and to hear and all of the other stuff, and how that's different from typical consciousness that you use to pay bills and talk to the mailman and, have phone conversations with your friends. It's different, but it will be something that you do over and over and over again. Don't look for the fast sign. Do your work. That's the only thing I can tell you. It comes from practice. And EM, play the song all the way through. Practice it all the way through. Like, if you're going to do a Reiki treatment, do the whole hour. Don't just do 10 minutes. I'm teasing, Preacher. You there, Dave?
Yeah, yeah. You there? I'm hurt here. Preacher's like, I gotta go to bed now. I gotta go to bed now. Yeah. You know what? We need to send Preacher some Reiki anyways, because he's going through a lot right now, and we love the guy, and he's going through a tough situation right now. So I'm not about to get into that. That's for him to get into with you guys, but Preacher is, we got to send him some Reiki as well.
Preacher, we tease you because we love you. That's the only thing I can tell you.
Dennis up in Edmonton has a comment. He says he was recommended Kimberly Meredith. Is Reiki good there?
I don't know. Dennis, is she teaching in the way that I explained? I would say if she is, then go for it. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So as long as you get 3.5 hours between you should have 4 initiations for first degree, and you should have 3.5 hours between all of them, and she should make you wait before you take second degree. I'm all for it. Go for it.
There you go. Anyhow, getting back to the whole intuition side of things here, let's focus on extraterrestrials for a moment. Do you know days, or is it hours, or is it minutes or seconds, or maybe you don't even know if you're going to have an ET experience that day or that night?
You can have a feeling sometimes about it, but you can also not know at all. And it really depends on, I had a setup. So in 97, I stopped getting abducted for the physical hybrid program stuff, and that all ended. And then I was only seeing my friend Jonas and the engineer and my kids, or going to see my kids. And I would know in advance when that was happening, and sometimes I'd know a week in advance. And we just ended up making it Monday and Tuesday night, because it's like, well, then then you know what you're doing Monday and Tuesday night. So over time, from 97, that changed where I didn't really know from 97 till about 2004, to where it became more regular, about once a month. And then when I moved up to the middle of nowhere, it was once a week or twice a week, both Monday and Tuesday nights. So It depends on your relationship with who's taking you. It depends on who's taking you. Whether they care about you, whether they value your input and opinion, whether they see you as an equal. Because for a long time, especially depending on which thing you're working on and how you're reacting to it, they may treat you like they don't see you as an equal. It's when you stand in your power and say, hey, literally, there is a spiritual authority here in the universe and you have to follow it. And I'm calling it in to tell you that I no longer want to do this with you. And you have to respect that spiritual authority. Aliens will respect spiritual authorities. And you need to call on them if you need to call on them to be respected. They respect less breaking their heads, but they respect that too. If you really, really create a problem, they'll leave you alone after a while. But these are Zetans I'm talking about. If you got something else going on, I'm sorry, talk to R. Keith Andrews. So yeah, it depends on who's taking you and what your relationship is. It can change.
Is the negative energy stronger or weaker or more manipulating than, say, of a benevolent species?
For whom?
On intuition.
What do you mean?
Well,
I don't get the question.
Oh, okay. Well, if someone is, say, having benevolent contact, they're going to know. They may be a little bit excited about it. They may be feeling it for a day or two when it's going to happen. But if something is more malevolent...
They might come out of the blue and just take you and mess you up. Yeah. Yeah, the malevolent is sort of, no, you're not going to enjoy this, and no, we're not going to tell you in advance, and no, we're not going to, pat you on the head and say, poor baby, when we're done. That's malevolent. Yeah, that's bad. But the benevolent ones will usually, they'll give you a heads up, and there'll be a reason for it, and you can kind of look forward to it. Yeah.
Now, what about getting back to cryptids? Fairies, Bigfoot, Dogman. Do they pick up on this as well?
Pick up on what?
The whole intuition. If you're setting the tone. Yeah.
Well, okay. So here's the thing: if you're walking, and the Tibetans knew this. The Tibetan tantric masters knew this. So they would say, do more energy work, because when you're brighter and your energy is clearer, a couple of things happen. One, if you're very bright and very clear, you can actually cause some beings pain because they aren't, and they may attack you because you're causing them pain because your brightness hurts them. But if you're bright and you're clear, you will generally attract help from beings who are on the same wavelength, who are of the same brightness and clarity. So two things happen to the practitioner of energy work and meditation, especially tantric yoga, but not the kind that Americans think it is. It's the kind where you're purifying the body, mind, spirit. Two things happen. When you get a being that is overwhelmed by your light, they may want to attack you because your light is hurting them. But you will also get help from beings who are supporting you in your practice and in your growth and in your compassion, and you're expanding your light. And so you'll have those beings that are helping you out. What the tantric practitioners would say, the Tibetans believe in fairies and the sprites and all the beings of the trees and the water and the fields. They would tell people going on retreat into the forest, ask permission before you put down your meditation cushion. Ask permission of all of the beings and find out if your light is going to cause any harm or any pain to the ones who can't handle it. And if you find that, and this would all be done telepathically, where these guys had practiced enough to be telepathic enough to have that conversations with the beings, with the fairies, to say, oh, I'm thinking of doing, 108 days retreat here of chanting, Om Vajrasattva and the whole mantra the whole time, 10,000 times. So is this going to be okay to do in your woods? And if they got okay from the fairies, then they would park and they would do that thing. If they didn't, they'd either move on or they'd have a negotiation with them, and either that being who wasn't going to be okay would be like, oh yeah, I can go away for 100 days. I'll go over and, be in this woods over here. So, but at least they asked and they tried, but they had done a lot of meditation and a lot of energy work to know the difference between what was them and what was something else. And they had clairaudience, clairsentience, and clairvoyance. They had, quote unquote, the realizations in order to do this. So getting back to the difference between fairies, these are all things that exist with us on Earth. Aliens can be on Earth, but they're not in the astral plane by and large. I mean, the Zetans that I'm talking about, they're physical. There are other beings that are physical. There are some light beings that do things, and that's interesting. But, they usually have a connection with somebody either for scientific purposes or they have a lifetime connection with somebody because that person is on a mission here. That aliens do. Whereas your fairies, your sprites, your cryptids, your beings of maybe not such a light nature, they're just around in the astral plane or in the phase-shifted earth plane. And, again, you need your clairaudience, your clairvoyance, your clairsomaticism, and your meditation to know the difference between what's you and what's them.
Will the creatures respond back? Do they respond back? And I guess the problem that I'm having trying to figure out is how do they understand a telepathic communication if maybe some of them just aren't sure about English? Because I'm sure that...
Well, we're all beings. That's so funny. I'm gonna laugh. Okay, so think about how you sense things and how you feel things. When you meditate, you realize that every human being has similar emotions. Just because you speak English doesn't mean that you feel pain or fear or joy any differently from somebody who speaks Japanese. You feel it the same way. You respond to stimulus in the same way. You sense things about the world in the same way. When you're speaking telepathically with beings who don't speak English, the language is visual and sentient. It's feeling-wise. It's body-wise. And your brain will translate the words. Now, sometimes, and this is where Harry Houdini got into a problem, his parents were, I think, Czech or something like that, and he could not believe that the brain was translating what they were saying from Czech to English. So if a medium didn't tell him words in Czech, he wasn't going to believe that the medium was real. But so he set a limitation on his own experiment, which was, this person has to talk to me in Czech in order for me to believe them. And that's not really how it works. What happens is your brain interprets what's being said, what's being thought at you, and you interpret it into your own language. The same happens in reverse. If they're in the astral plane, then of course we have so much energy. We're just broadcasting out, this is what I want. This is my intention, especially if we're thinking clearly. This is my intention. This is what I intend to do. This is the permission I'm asking you for. This is what I'd like to know from you. Is it okay with you? Or am I in some way going to harm you? Do you think? And, do you want to move on? All of that intention, which is pre-verbal, gets translated into their language. Almost everything you think, feel, react to is pre-verbal. And it couldn't be anything but, because we have so many different languages on the planet, and everybody is expressing things in these different languages, but the fact is, everybody is expressing the same stuff.
So when they communicate back, and we only got about 2.5 minutes here before we got to go to our final break of the night. When they communicate back, is that why we're able to translate it back into English then? So that way we understand, because obviously we don't know Sasquatch talk or fairy talk or gnome talk or whatever.
Well, Sasquatches are Bigfoot are very good with languages, and they do pick up human languages. But fairies, they might have their own language, but the fact is, you feel it, you see it, and your brain translates it into words. Because that's what the brain does. The brain can learn every single language across the universe and translate it. We already have our universal translator, and it's in our head. So just trust it.
I don't know how to trust it, because for a lot of people who have a little bit of skeptical reservation in there, they may not be able to tell the difference between, a true intuitive thought or communication comparatively to an active imagination.
They haven't meditated. They haven't done their work. They can be skeptical all they want, but they're being skeptical from their limited perception and lack of work. And if they're not working, it's not your problem. If you're not working, that is your problem. Go meditate, go do your energy work, go do your practice, and you will get results. And if other people think those results are impossible, well, that's their problem.
Goddess Michelle is quickly asking here, what do you do when you wake up with a stitch in the back of your head?
Like somebody put stitches in the back of your head?
Yes, one stitch apparently.
I start throwing things and punching stuff. I don't know. I've never had a stitch in the back of my head, woken up with it. But that sounds like a MyLab or Rehab or something, because I've not met any aliens who use stitches. So I'd be very, very upset. I'd scream a bit and get my anger out, because I'm sure I would have it.
Well, on that note, that's 2 hours down, Liz. That's 2 hours. That's 2 hours down. And it's just amazing how quick this show can go sometimes. My lab experience. I would have never thought that. Never thought that.
What would you have thought?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I you know what? I honestly, I'm not even trying to be sarcastic about Goddess Michelle, but I honestly didn't know. Maybe I thought they did stitch up rather than use,
Yeah, no, I don't know. That sounds bad.
No, I fully agree. Fully agree. We'll get more into that. And Michelle, if you want to ask a follow-up question or call in, please do, because I'd like to learn a little bit more about that. And we'll take your calls in hour number 3 as well as the Thought of the Day. We'll be back right after this.
Hello, SOR listeners. Lorian Fenton here. Let me ask you, now that disclosure's happened, what does it mean for ufology? For answers, join us at UFOCon 2018 in South San Francisco, California, March 23rd through 25th. Keynote speakers Stephen Bassett, Grant Cameron, and Melinda Leslie address the current disclosure agenda. Dave Scott, yes, you're Dave Scott, and Lynn Buchanan tell of amazing alien encounters. Get your tickets at caufocon.com. That's caufocon.com.
Are you tired of being blocked, shadow banned, or placed in jail for simply posting your thoughts on social media? Social Media Freedom can take care of that for you. Social Media Freedom is the newest and one of the best free new apps that allows you the freedom to post what you want, when you want. It takes seconds to download from your app store. Come join the tribe at Social Media Freedom. It's time to set yourself free.
The first annual Caribou Paracon is happening September 28th to 30th in the 108 Mile Ranch, British Columbia, brought to you by the Canadian Society of Questers and Spaced Out Radio. Come listen to our featured speaker, Grant Cameron, along with Elizabeth Anglin, Paisley Town, Mike Moran, Eric Cooper, and more. It's a 3-day supernatural adventure at the Spruce Hills Resort and Spa. Tickets for the weekend are $150 Canadian. The Caribou Paracon, celebrating everything paranormal.
A timepiece is a reflection of who you are, and what better way to show off the real you than with an Escape watch? Escape is a lifestyle brand accessorizing your days and nights. Choose to escape and create the life of discovery that you deserve. Dream, play, unite with your own personalized Escape watch. Head to escapewatches.com. There is no time like the present to enjoy your escape. Use promo code SMF2017 for your 20% discount today.
Looking for a place to advertise at a very reasonable cost? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. SpacedOutRadio.com has an advertising tab that you can click to check out our daily, weekly, and monthly packages to play on the radio, or our website including social media. From commercial spots to banners, we have it all. Check out our competitive pricing today.
We are lighting the void on Saturday nights on Spaced Out Radio. Hey, this is Joe Roop, and I'm hanging out in SOR headquarters every Saturday night, bringing you the latest news when it comes to the weird and strange. Bigfoot, occult, UFOs, ghosts, and everything in between, I got you covered. You can tune in to SpacedOutRadio.com starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern Time. Come travel into the void with us on Spaced Out Saturdays.
Not ready for bed on Saturday night? Right after Spaced Out Saturdays, hop on over to S4 with Corey Ruiz and me, Eric Cooper from Forest Moon Paranormal. With S4, there are no limits to what we try and uncover. From government conspiracies to helping clean up the paranormal, no topic is safe on S4. We get to the heart of the matter, of the subjects you want to learn more about. So tune in on S4 starting at midnight Pacific, 3 a.m. Eastern, only on SpacedOutRadio.com.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com.
Hi there, I'm Butch Witkowski, lead investigator with U4COP. On the final Monday of every month, you can listen to me and host Dave Scott on Spaced Out Radio's Strange Days. We're going to get to the heart of the matter when it comes to what's happening out there. People are seeing and experiencing things from ET contact to Bigfoot, and I want to hear about it. Your experiences are what we investigators need to help solve these unknown mysteries, so tune in at spacedoutradio.com to the final Monday of every month from Butch Witkowski's Strange Days.
This is Eric Markham, news editor for the Spaced Out Radio's The Encounter Online. We have put together a great team of writers and journalists from all over the world to bring you top-quality paranormal stories, from alien encounters to the latest conspiracies. You won't find any of that fake news here. True stories and top-notch reporting as we look to bring these experiences to the mainstream. The Encounter Online, only at spacedoutradio.com.
Do you want to know the truth? Do UFOs exist? Are aliens real? Are the governments hiding the biggest secret in history? We're UFO seekers, and we're on a hunt for the truth. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow along with us as we journey across the United States, visiting UFO hotspots and alien hotspots, trying to document the UFO phenomenon. Catch us on Spaced Out Radio every third Monday of the month as we discuss Area 51, UFOs, and more. And also, don't forget to subscribe to us on YouTube.
You hear footsteps in the empty room above you. A rocking chair begins rocking by itself. Don't be afraid of the things that go bump in the night. Reach for Spirit Storybox, the iPhone app the Huffington Post UK called the only ghost hunting app you will ever need. Spirit Storybox. The spirits are telling their stories.
It's Cosmic Sundays with me, Elizabeth Anglin, in Cosmic Passport. Let me take you down a 3-hour spiritual journey where we will get into everything from ET contact to Psychic Sundays. It's a journey of listening and learning together with some of the best professionals in their fields. You can tune in to Cosmic Passport at spacedoutradio.com every Sunday, starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern.
The views and opinions expressed by tonight's guest and topic of discussion do not necessarily represent the official policy or position of Spaced Out Radio, Spaced Out Weekend, Spaced Out Radio Limited, its hosts, syndicated carriers, or anyone associated with this broadcast. You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and hashtag Spaced Out Radio, and on Facebook Spaced Out Radio Show. Now, back to the program.
Child grew up too fast, went running wild. Now we don't know who to pray to anymore.
Welcome back to the third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott. Great to have you with us. Tomorrow night on the program, Jackie Chin is going to join us. We're talking vampires, we're talking zombies, and her own psychic crusade. We get going at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern Time at spacedoutradio.com. We want to welcome in everyone listening in on WQEE 99 Rock the Key down in Noonan, Georgia, home of The Walking Dead. We are live as well on the United Public Radio Network, 107.7 FM in New Orleans and over 160 countries around the world. We are also live on The Fringe FM, and if you're listening in on Revolution Radio, remember, the Double R Machine is a donation station financed by you, the valued listener. Head on over to revolution.radio and donate today. Bill Cardwell has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Archaeogenetics. Archaeogenetics is your password. Make sure you use it wisely, Space Travelers, as Bill sets the password each and every night right here on the mighty SOR. Now, if you want to follow us on social media, you could do so on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. Use the hashtag Spaced Out Radio if you want to connect live with me during the show as well. You can also watch us live on Periscope TV. Go to periscope.tv/Spaced Out Radio. I'm right there. I'll wave at you. We're on Facebook at Spaced Out Radio Show. On Instagram, Dave Scott, SOR. Subscribe to our YouTube channel if you wouldn't mind. YouTube.com/Spaced Out Radio. And we're on iHeartRadio in the United States. TalkStream Live. Tune us in on TuneIn. Download and subscribe to our show on iTunes. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including joining the SOR Space Travelers Club for $5 a month, rock out to some Bumblefoot, shop at our Spaced Out Radio store. You can also watch great videos from UFO seekers and Contact TV, and read up on the Encounter Online, our news section. Everything at spacedoutradio.com. Tonight, it's the final time we introduce Elizabeth Anglin and the Spiritual You. This show happens the first Tuesday of every month. Liz, of course, you know her as being the host of Cosmic Passport on Spaced Out Sundays, a very talented, intuitive individual who has been around the block when it comes to the field of spirituality. Liz, welcome back.
Hi, Dave.
Hi, how are you?
Good. You know, Skype is playing tricks on me tonight. I think there's a gnome in my Skype because it doesn't show me when I'm muted or not muted. The gnomes have taken over Skype.
You had to go gnome. You had to go, you know, you never want to go full gnome, and you just went full gnome.
Once you go gnome, there's no going back, and Adam in the Spreaker chat room has definitely got me going gnome. Like, you know, Burger Gnome. That's the best. The Burger Gnome franchise is going to take off across all of Canada.
Oh, my goodness. Come on. Come on. You people are just evil. Just evil. We're talking spirituality, intuition, telepathy tonight on The Spiritual You, and we're going to start off with a question from Stockton right off the bat. He is asking, we talk a lot about astro travel and remote viewing. If one had the ability to communicate telepathically, could they communicate with someone while in that state? He asks because many people claim to receive messages at that time.
Yep. That's just a yes, because quite often when I'm doing remote viewing, I'm bilocating and having a conversation with whoever it is at the same time. And the person, you know, it's in Reiki, there's this very interesting thing, and it has to do with the the higher consciousness or the perfect soul, spirit, or consciousness of a person, which is not necessarily the working daily life consciousness. You can have a conversation with the higher consciousness of a person without them necessarily being aware that you are having that conversation, because there are different levels. And you know, a lot of mediums will go into a trance because they're basically accessing this higher level of consciousness, but then they suffer from something called state-dependent memory, where they will not be aware of what they did or what they said or what happened while they were in trance. And it's because their brain waves are different and the memories don't encode the same way. The same thing happens if you're having a telepathic conversation in a remote viewing or an astral travel. You may be having a conversation with an aspect of that person's consciousness, but their working daily life consciousness may not remember any of it or have any idea that actually happened. So you can't, conversations that you have when you remote view or astral travel should not be necessarily, you know, they wouldn't hold up in court, basically. You couldn't hold somebody to what they had said in their higher consciousness, because that their higher consciousness may have a different perspective or the consciousness that they would be in the astral plane has a different perspective than their working daily life consciousness. So it's important to know that if you're going to go off into the astral realm or remote viewing realm and have a telepathic conversation, that what the higher consciousness says is not necessarily what the everyday working consciousness will understand or remember.
Follow-up question from Stockton. He is asking, could it be someone just testing their abilities?
Who? Could someone doing...
in regards to those messages, could it be someone else just testing their abilities randomly?
Is it a way to test abilities? Like, you know, if you went to someone and said, how are you feeling physically today? And their higher consciousness said, oh, I got this evil pain in my left knee. I think I whapped it on something. You could go back to their lower consciousness and say, how are you feeling today? And they said, oh, I get this pain in my left knee. I think I whacked it on something. You know, that's a good way to test it. You want to test something that the working everyday consciousness is going to be able to validate for you. You know, that's the best way. Yes, you can go do that, but make it something that the everyday consciousness will validate. Talk about something that's mundane but present with the person if you're going to go do that.
With ET contactees and the telepathy and the intuition that they have, earlier in right before the break, we talked about Michelle on Twitter at #SpacedOutRadio, who said she found a stitch in the back of her head, but doesn't ever remember going to the doctors to get a stitch. And, you know, she would know. She's a nurse.
Yeah.
Okay. She would know what a stitch feels like, why it's there. She had it obviously checked out. You were saying that it could be some sort of MyLab type experiment if she didn't know that it happened to her.
Yeah. She could have been given phosphorol or you know, whatever that. There's a drug they give you where you're awake, but you totally lose all consciousness of what happened. And that is a battlefield drug. And it sort of mimics what the aliens do, but they don't necessarily have to give you a drug. They can do that by changing your consciousness, your state of consciousness, so you have a state-dependent memory problem. But this battlefield drug will make you forget whatever. And so it could have been somebody in the military or somebody who is a doctor abducted you, you know, gave you this drug, abducted you, and, you know, did something to you. I'd be mad if that happened.
When extraterrestrials are in contact with you and they take you physically, how do you know the signs that you've been taken? How do you know, where should you check your body? Is it something where they're going to leave marks in the same area every time?
When I got taken very often they didn't leave marks in the same area. There'd be I'd get a triangle or a hexagonal dot markings on an arm or my hand. I'd get scoop marks on my shins. I'd get white lines on my forearms and also upper arms. And the white lines were like, they'd start off red and they'd turn white. I'd get grinding in my ankles and in between my toes where implants went in. I'd get headaches from implants in my head. Some people would get stuff behind their ear where they'd get an implant behind their ear that they would be taken out and taken back in or put back in. What's interesting is sometimes you'll feel really crappy after an experience, and it can be with the same aliens that you've had another experience with, and you come back and you feel great, like it's the best day ever. You wake up on the absolute right side of the bed. So either one, feeling really tired and really crappy, or feeling really great, like it's the best day ever, is another sign that you've been taken. You know, your glass of water by the bed, being drunk, your coins. It can depend on who is taking you and what they're doing. When I would be taken by the Zetans, most of the time I'd be okay unless they worked on my head and I got a headache, an implant didn't go in right, or sometimes if a tech set one of the other equipment wrong, I would get burned. So I'd have a burn on my skin, and that's a real obvious dead giveaway. And then for me, I actually regressed back to when a tech did that, so that because I thought I remembered that the tech had set his equipment wrong, and that's why I got burned. And then I regressed back to it. It was like, that was exactly what I remembered. He had set his equipment wrong. So, yeah, there are different things. I know mainly about Zetans, but I've had some reptilian things. Usually I feel like super crap after usually I would have felt like super crap after reptilians because I didn't like them. So
for first timers, where should they look on their bodies? Do they just check everywhere if they think they've been taken, or is there certain signs?
Check your shins, check the backside of your forearms, check behind your ear, check if you have a pain at the bridge of your nose, check the back of your neck, check your ankles if you have a new scar that would be in between the ankle bones, sort of where the two tendons are. Check for a white line scar there. Check between your toes if you have a lump between your toes that wasn't there before. Check between your fingers for a lump that wasn't there before. Check for dots, circle dots, a circle of dots, a hexagon of dots, a triangle of dots, like little blood blisters, that sort of thing.
Question coming from Twitter from Andrew. Dreams are generally more like moments and not necessarily follow through narratives. Recently, he had a dream in which he realized, as he left it, was a conclusion to a repeating dream that he had had before. He doesn't remember the dream per se, but the feeling was an end. What could the feeling of a conclusion of a repeating dream mean?
This is a really great question because it's happened to me before, and it's funny because normally I'm thinking about dreams when I first wake up, and then I forget the dream, and then I forget what I'm thinking about. I'm thinking for him, even though I'm not supposed to be reading, that he was confirming to himself that he had recently finished up a life lesson, and that he was going to be moving on to a new life lesson, like the door had closed on that life lesson and it was done. But I almost think that life lesson was completed last year, like not just right now, but it was completed a while, a year, maybe a year and a half ago. But the dream was confirming, yeah, it's done. You're never going to go back to that.
Do dreams play an integral part in intuition and or telepathy?
Dreams, to the extent that you remember them and are aware of what you're dreaming, that's another way of becoming aware of how you process and react to information and situations. So becoming aware of your dreams, keeping a dream journal is a meditative, contemplative practice that you can consider part of your spiritual practice, because it clues you in to how you are reacting to what's going on with you and around you and with other people. So it's like a meditation to take care of that and to journal about your dreams. It's good.
Does a lot of the contact happen, or a lot of the telepathic communication happen in dream state, though?
No. People can be taken in the astral, and I think, and that might seem like a dream state. So if you hear about, I do have a client who is what I call an astral abductee. What happens is she doesn't get taken physically anywhere. The aliens come and they take her out of her body and they go do stuff. And nothing happens to her body. She never has any implants. She never has anything else at all with that go on. But she is often taken in the astral to other places and taught different things. And that might seem like when she remembers it as if it's a dream, but she's actually astral traveling. So it's not really a dream. When you're dreaming, your body is actually processing stuff of the day. You're in REM sleep and you're processing. Astral travel is not exactly the same thing. It's different. But you remember it like it's a dream.
Let's get into the whole astral travel side for a second here, because I think a lot of people get confused, myself included, about the differences between astral travel and remote viewing.
Yeah, me too. I can't believe that these guys are astral traveling to go remote view things. I would just remote view it. With Eric Cooper's group, I'm like, you're astral traveling to go do that? You're crazy, man. I just remote view it. Well, astral travel is this idea that you get your consciousness out of your body and you go travel someplace. Now, in remote viewing, you stay in your body and your mind just travels someplace. Like you're not, and it feels completely different. I've done a lot more remote viewing. Well, I've probably done more astral traveling. I'm not comfortable with the whole conscious astral traveling thing. I find it very uncomfortable. So it is like your astral body gets out of your body and it goes places. But in the doing of that, you have to be kind of skillful in what you think about, because whatever you think about magnifies. And if you're a beginner, as you're magnifying what you're thinking about, you can put yourself in odd situations. So like I stuck myself in my ceiling and then got afraid that a dark being wanted to enter my body and take it over. And I couldn't get back in my body and I was stuck in my ceiling. That was bad. I didn't like it at all. I was like, this is so bad. But when you remote view, you're very aware that you're in your body and you're basically casting out your mental clairvoyance, clairaudience, clairsentience, all your clairs to a certain location and then looking around. And you can do that with enough intent and focus that you begin to feel like you have a body in that other place. But it doesn't include this whole sort of astral thing, because you're still aware of the body that you're in while you're viewing this other place. And you can be aware of people who are in the room with you where your body is, and people who are in the room with you where you're casting your focus to. So that's how it works for me. I would not be able to do what Eric Cooper's astral team does, because, when I think about something, all of a sudden I get myself in a thought loop and my astral body is like, I've got one foot stuck in a hole and I can't get it out. So I don't do that.
I don't understand the idea of being able to project myself in another area. Is it like an out-of-body experience where you're attached to a cord, or is it just mental traveling?
It's just mental traveling. It's basically you're just saying, I want to look at, here's my target. I'm connecting to it energetically and mentally. And as I'm connecting to it, if you practice your clairaudience, your clairvoyance, your clairsentience enough, it it can feel like you are physically in that room and you can walk around and look at things, but it's not the same process as to how you get there is not the same as astral traveling, because you're very, very aware of your physical body and where you're sitting and who you're talking to at the exact same time. So it is as if you're being in two places at the same time, but you're just not as much in the other place as you are where your physical body is.
Where can you go? Do you just project, I want to be in the ocean in Australia at this point, checking out Megalodon, or do you have to have a target?
You could say, I want to go see the closest Megalodon to me, and you could project to the closest Megalodon. Now, if you're not, if you want to do it at this time, you might get nothing, and so you just be in your body. But if there are, the closest Megalodon at this point in time to me, staying at this point in time, then you can find out if there's a Megalodon, and you would remote view the Megalodon that's here. I have remote viewed the last T-Rex who lived near me in Boston, and what their last day was like. And man, that was a poor T-Rex. I felt very bad for that T-Rex. But you can do stuff like that with remote viewing. You don't actually have to do it with astral travel. You can remote view back in time. You can remote view in a parallel reality. You can remote view in another dimension, and you can remote view beyond these dimensions. BTO, I hope you're happy with that. It's just like Reiki. You can do that.
Do you have to train for something like this, or can anybody do it?
Well, yeah, anybody can do it, but everybody who does it should get trained to do it. And there may be some people in the world who can do it naturally, and good for them, but most people need to get trained to do it.
So with that type of training that goes through, why would you project yourself into an area when you can just sit back on your chair, relax, and remote view? Like, to me, listening to your explanation, I don't see a difference between the two.
Yeah, the only difference is I like being in, I would not astral project to a place at all. I think that they're doing it really, really, really the hard way, and I just wouldn't do it. But, it's working, and they're getting a lot of good information, and for the ones who do it well, it doesn't seem to be harming them. So, more power to them. God love them. I'd rather just sit in my chair and remote view and bilocate. It's different. It feels different because you are actually in two places. You're mentally in two places at the same time, but you're more physically in the place that you physically are than the other one.
So when you are astral traveling, can you get hurt then? If you're at a location, let's say you go into the jungles because you want to remote view the silverback gorillas.
Well, I don't think so. I don't think you can get hurt in an astral travel. Your silver cord will pull you back. But if you're like me, you'll play a bunch of mind games with yourself and freak yourself out before it does that, and that'll be very uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, so when you are doing... Because I know with Eric Cooper's team, when they astral travel, on the plane that they are, and they're battling either spirits, demons, extraterrestrials, or whatever, members of their team can get hurt during this.
That's because they believe they can get hurt. Literally, whatever you think when you're astral traveling becomes what your reality is. This is, people make their own heaven in the astral plane. They do the things they love to do. Horses get the field that they always wanted to have when they didn't have pasture on life. Every animal, every being gets their own thing when you astral travel. That's why I don't do it, because my thing or my fears or whatever it is I am neurotic about will just presence in the astral. That's why I just remote view. Why? Because it doesn't presence in the astral when I remote view. I'm still in my body. I'm just mentally at another place.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I'd be afraid to astral travel because I know what's in my head ain't good. You know.
See, I don't know with everything that I have experienced. I don't know if I would want an out-of-body experience or to astral travel. Like, to me, it just seems very, very complicated and something that I may not want to, or maybe I'm not ready to do it. You know, I just don't feel the necessity to go there. But I mean, I could see where it would benefit in checking out some of these, you know, checking out Carl, for instance.
Well, you could remote view Carl. You can do the same thing. Now, and I do astral travel when I work with aliens now, but I don't remember it, you know, because it does freak me out. Like if I'm trying to consciously do it, I will get myself, like I said, I'll play a bunch of mind games with myself and I'll freak myself out. But if I'm doing it and it's an alien friend that comes to get me and gets me out of my body and we go do something together, there is more of a sense of actually being there. And I think that's good about what Eric Cooper's team is doing, because they are more there than perhaps I am when I'm bilocating. They are very there. So that's a good thing about it. I would say that's a strong thing, but they have to watch their belief systems when they're there. You know, if their belief is, that they're safe, they're protected, that nothing can get them, and that's exceedingly strong, it's not being Pollyannish to go into that kind of belief system when you're in the astral. It's rather important, I think.
Let's head over to Twitter where Andrew has a question. He says, Elizabeth, if dreams are only about processing daily activities and such, then how do you explain all the people who dreamed about burning buildings, planes flying into buildings, and people falling from the sky before 9/11 occurred? Could it be something else?
Oh, they were probably accessing astral information. They may have been astral traveling, or they may have been talking with their spirit guides. And basically, they were picking up on the field. And so when you're asleep, you do go through all these different stages of consciousness, and you will go through stages where you do pick up on the universal field and what's happening in it, and where there's a lot of energy of an event. And you also can pick up on the probability field. You go through all of, your brain gets these different wavelengths going, and as you go into REM sleep, you're going through all these different stages. As you're in REM sleep and coming back out of it, you're going through all these different stages. So yes, they were in connection with the universal field, the probability field at that time. They weren't necessarily dreaming, but they remembered it like a dream because they went through that stage while they were sleeping.
Follow-up from Andrew on Twitter. So was the dream precognition of the events of, say, an event like 9/11? Could it be from some future remote viewing?
No, it's just everybody is psychic, and most people don't allow for that fact when they're awake. But then when the brain does go through its thing of processing the day and running, it's sort of like it's like your computer running through, cycles to update, etc. That's a very bad analogy. Don't quote me on that. There's a better one, and I can't find it right now. It's cycling. The brain is cycling through these different levels. When you're asleep, everybody's psychic, so everybody who was sleeping, who picked up on it and remembered it, said, hey, I had a precognitive dream, I must be psychic. Well, the fact of the matter is everybody is psychic. And those people just happened to notice that they had a precognitive, quote-unquote, dream. They call it a dream because it's something they remembered from when they were sleeping, but it wasn't that part of the processing that the body was doing random stuff and telling a story. It was actually in a reality in the world, in the universal field, in the probability field, in the universal field, which is a level of reality, not a, made up mental gunk processing state.
Let's get to a question from Yvonne here, and she is asking in the Spreaker chat room, so if you remote view, you cannot intervene in a situation as astral travelers do?
You can intervene in the situation. You can intervene remotely. So, if I were, I'll put it to you this way. I had a student who went to Indonesia. She went to Sumba. She's Indonesian. She went to Sumba in Indonesia. Before she left, her guides and spirit helpers put a big black box around her. And she said, and she called me before she left. She said, I can't access any of my intuitive abilities. What's going on? And I remote viewed it, and I said, oh, your guides have told me they put a big black box around you to protect you, because when you go to Sumba, if you didn't have this box and if the people there knew what you could do, you might get attacked. And so the big black box is to protect you from any sort of attack. Go to Sumba, have a good time, take lots of pictures. You're one of the few people who's what she did. She was photographing the death of a princess of this tribe. And she went and she ended up photographing this ritual where all of these medicine women were. Well, one of the medicine women accidentally saw her light out of the big black box. And she perceived that she was powerful. And this student was a Reiki master. That was why she was my student. She was my apprentice. This medicine woman perceived that she had power. And in Sumba, they don't believe in universal power. They believe that if somebody has some power, what you do is you get like a sea worm, an astral sea worm, and you send it to that person and you have it suck out all their power and bring it back to you. So this medicine woman got her astral sea worm and sent it to try to get all the power from my student. My student comes back, and it's been a few days, and she calls and says, I still can't access any of my intuitive abilities. What's going on? So I remote view it, and I see the black box is in place. And as the black box is in place, there is this sea worm-looking creature bouncing up against it, trying to get in. And then it turns and it looks at me. And yes, because of my own stupidity, I got attacked by the sea worm because it perceived I had power, and that's what its purpose was to get power and take it back to this medicine woman, and it attached to my solar plexus. And so I had this energy-sucking sea worm in my solar plexus, and I'm like, oops, crap. But I did that. I did remote viewing. I wasn't astrally there, and I, in the process, had to remove the sea worm and send it back to Sumba without taking all of my power away, which was quite shocking to do. And I was really mad, and it did not go well because I got really mad that I had let this happen and that somebody would do something so silly because they had such a limited worldview. Anyway, you can take care of things from, this was me learning that, yes, I could get into trouble based on my own remote viewing, but I could also fix it at the same time. But you can also, like, if you go in with the intention of clearing something out when you're remote viewing, you're going to view it. If there's anything there, you're going to clear it out. You just clear it out. You're still aware of your body sitting in the chair. You go in armed knowing that, okay, we're going to clear this out. We're going to clear whatever this is and send it on to its most right and perfect place. It will not come to me. It will not stay with the person. It will go on. It will be escorted. It will be made to go to its most right and perfect place, which is not with me or this person. And it will not be allowed to come back.
Andrew on Twitter wants to know when you're going to sing for us.
I don't know, Andrew. Thanks for asking. I don't know. I can't sing the song I wrote down the other night.
Oh my goodness, yeah, we don't want to go there. Don't want to go there.
So.
No. Liz is very key into the rap scene. Let's just say that.
I rewrite a lot of songs because I went to music school, and that's what we did in music school. I went to Berklee College of Music before I went to University of Massachusetts, and we rewrite songs.
Mm-hmm. I want to ask you about, the whole intuition and telepathy. Does that also transverse into other parallel type dimensions?
Yes. So they call it quantum jumping, but basically your intention is to go, you can look at all your parallel timelines. It's a little corkscrewy. Like, to me, it feels like my brain gets in a corkscrew because there's something weird and twisty between the parallel timelines. And I've gotten over that. It used to make me feel sick when I did it. I'd be like, nauseated. But once you do it a while, you get used to that, and it's sort of like not getting seasickness anymore once you do it enough. It's very interesting to see how many things are the same. Like, I had a period of time where I lived outside of Telluride in this lifetime. I lived in Telluride in every other of the 13. There are 13 total that I've been able to see. I lived in Telluride in every other one of them. I got there earlier in some situations. I did different jobs, but every single one of them I lived in or around Telluride, which is weird that, you would end up in the same geographic area in every single one, but I did.
So when you are, communicating telepathically with maybe your own self or someone else on a different dimension, do they get, considering I guess you would be on the same timeline, do they get the message instantaneously?
Well, again, we're talking about an aspect of their consciousness that where, they may not know that they've gotten the message. If they're very aware, they'll know. If they're, when I first learned Reiki, I sent Reiki back to myself at a very difficult time in my life, and I gave myself a message. And at the time in my life that I did this, like when I was having the difficult time, I thought an angel had come to visit me and give me a message. So my 14-year-old self did get the message from me when I was 28. She got the message, but she thought an angel had done it. So, if you do this, you might be mistaken for being something else, or the person might get the message, but get it subconsciously and then start to act on it. So it's interesting because, again, consciousness has different levels, and what you connect to when you're doing energy and telepathy may not be the base level consciousness of where everything is physical and you walk into the kitchen and get yourself a bowl of ice cream.
Can you pass messages to your other self or loved ones on the other side to beware of something? Or are all different timelines moving, even though you're moving at the same time, they're all experiencing different aspects of your life?
Timelines are, so timelines are one thing. Probability field timelines are one thing. If they're in the future, that's still this dimension for the most part. If you're quantum jumping, you can actually learn something from your other selves much more easily than you can tell them anything. Like if you've gotten to the state where you can quantum jump over to the next parallel lifetime and see what you've done with that, you can find parts of your personality that you may not have fully integrated into this lifetime and say, hey, in that lifetime, I really loved X. So in one of my lifetimes, I became a karate champion. My dad was a karate teacher, and I stopped taking karate in this lifetime because I punched my brother in the solar plexus and I stopped his heart. And it scared me so much. What would have happened if I had actually killed him? Because my dad just came up and he thumped him in the chest and his heart started back up again. But I was so terrified that I might kill somebody that I stopped taking karate lessons. Well, in this other lifetime, I became a world champion karate person and exercising all the time. And if I really wanted to, that's an aspect of my personality that I could bring to this timeline if I wanted to work on that. So it's not like so much like your other lives need you to go and save them. But of course, if you find you're in a parallel timeline and you get to maybe one of the darker ones where you're depressive or something, you could give yourself a message, perhaps. But those lives are, different things are happening in those lives, and you are responding to those different things in different ways. And you can learn something from looking at them. I'm not sure how much you can do to change them, except, give comfort and support.
Question from Goddess Michelle at #SpacedOutRadio. What is your opinion then on possession?
It's real. It usually happens to people who are spirit mediums who are unaware that they're spirit mediums, and who my mother was possessed, and she was a skeptic, so she didn't even believe people had spirits, and she was completely unaware that she could be possessed because she didn't believe in it. And I have been attacked twice by people who are possessed with knives, held hostage. It's not good. Don't be possessed. And be aware if you're doing spirit mediumship.
I don't think anybody really wants to be possessed.
Just say no.
Just say no. If an evil demon comes up to you and says, "Hi, may I possess you?" Just say no.
Say no. Just say no.
It's like the frying pan. This is you. The egg. This is you with demon possession. Crack. Any questions? That's a good way to head into the thought of the Dave.
Okay. Uh-oh, Dave's possessed. He can't talk.
Oh, I never talk during the first part of the Thought of the Dave. We like to get Mr. Bumblefoot in there pretty darn good. Thought of the Dave happens every single day on Spaced Out Radio, where I pose a question to you, our valued listeners, and you respond. I read it on the air. Tell me what you think. Liz is sticking with me, and I've asked her the question on my Facebook. Have you ever successfully communicated telepathically with any person, animal, or being? And we got a lot of cool responses here, my friend. A lot of cool responses. I'm curious to get your take on them. So we'll start off with Joe. Joe says, once when my grandmother died, I left the hospital frantic. A raven landed on the hood of my truck at the top parking deck. My truck died instantly. The bird wouldn't leave until I looked it dead in the eye. I looked it in the eye, and I heard my grandmother telling me to suck it up. I'm okay, and I'll be here when you need me. I was trying to start my truck the whole time. Just as soon as the raven's feet came off the truck, the engine turned over and started. Is that a sign or what?
That's awesome. And spirits can affect electronic issues with your vehicles. They can give messages through radios. They can make your car not start. And Day of the Dead, some of the symbology of Day of the Dead is birds, spirits going into birds, because spirits do go into birds, and people will often see birds. So that is a classic example of something that can happen with the spirit and with telepathy.
Mm-hmm.
Dave has been abducted.
Oh, I turned my mic off, damn it. I thought I had my mic on mute, and I hit the button, and here I am reading the damn thing. All right, Brian says, yes, Often I communicate with my children this way. It doesn't always happen, but when it does, it works brilliantly. I have also had much success with this in public with people I do not know. It passes the time when in transport. Once again, the whole child thing comes into play, that you can actually, make their mind, work because it hasn't been tainted with, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
Your thoughts?
Yeah, I think that is awesome. I had that kind of relationship with my dad because he did believe in it. My mom probably would have been able to do it too if she believed in it, but like I said, she was an unaware medium. But it's wonderful when that happens because you do get the sense that you're on the same wavelength with members of your family because you're on the same wavelength with members of your family. So that's wonderful when that happens.
I love this one from Stephen. He says, I do with my cat Edward to wind up my wife. When I telepathically tell her, telepathically tell the cat to go lick her face, it works like a treat.
That's hilarious.
That is awesome, is it not? That's my favorite one of the day so far.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
He's evil. He's a cat person.
It's not evil. Not evil. I think the cat and him have a brilliant relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Brilliant relationship. All right.
He won't lick her toes. He'll have the cat lick her toes.
Exactly.
Sorry.
Exactly. Okay, we got Edie, and everybody knows Edie Kaito around here. She's been a guest on the show a couple of times talking Bigfoot. She says, yes, Dave, but you already know that. Well, of course, she telepathically communicates with Sasquatch, and it's working very, very well for her. Very well. Karen says, pretty dang sure my son was just telling me about his connection with me and his girlfriend. We think of calling and the phone automatically rings. Happens constantly. I even had shoulder pain for no reason, only to find out my son is having shoulder pain as well.
Yeah.
Is that more telepathic or telekinetic?
That's empathic, but it's telepathic at the same time. It's just another manifestation of the connection.
Perfect. All right, let's get to Mary here. She says, my entire life it began with animals. My go-to, I trust it, feeling place, clairvoyance, the powers of clear seeing, clear knowing. It's an art and a gift. Would you consider telepathy a gift?
It's a gift when you can do it. It's really frustrating when you feel you can't. I went through a period of time where I only had a telepathic connection with my dad's horse, who was my horse too. And I wanted so badly to telepathically connect with wild animals, with muskrats and frogs and turtles and all, I wanted to be like Dr. Doolittle. So yeah, if you really can, learn it, it's a gift because it makes you feel so connected and you get so much information about the world and a different perspective. But dang, is it frustrating when you can't do it the way you want to do it. It's a curse at that point.
Adam, otherwise known as Adnome, in a harassing way. I don't even know if I should read this one. I really don't. I don't. He says, in the world of the unknown or even unsure, the simple thought in your mind could possibly travel light years away and connect with a distant civilization, and all they may get out of it is a gnome, and they stop and say, what the F is Adnome doing this for? We are doomed. Really, Adnome? You just had to get that in there. This guy is a gnomaholic. He is a gnomaholic, and every day, at least, I think he has a quota of about 400 times, he has to mention the word gnome in every chat room and on Periscope. It's like, come on, man. You gotta let it go. You gotta let it go. I think it's hilarious, though. I really do.
Yeah. I think Adam and I should get together and cover the Mo song and just turn the Mo into
No, I'm already disagreeing with that. Disagreeing with that.
Okay.
Damn it, Ad Gnome. All right, let's get to Lori. She says, people sometimes mistake telepathy for being psychic. We are all born telepathic. It could have been taught to be accessed and used through practice. My kids have always just taken our unspoken communication for granted. It's about accessing and maintaining similar frequency. Is telepathy then, Liz, a different frequency?
Well, it's somebody was on our local radio show today reading a piece of philosophy that was talking about we touch things with our senses. Telepathy is a way of touching other people's minds, what they're thinking about consciously, with energy. So it is a frequency because it is energy of some kind. And it is a way of sensing with energy. Psychic ability is a way of sensing with energy too. Is it really different? You use the same principles. You use clairaudience, clairvoyance, clairsentience, clairsomaticism. You use the same things. The mind works the same way in telepathy as it does with psychic ability. It's just applied to a different target than telepathy is. It's still working the same way. It's just applied. Telepathic communication is we're going to talk without words now. You're still using clairaudience, clairsentience, all the other clairs to do that. So
Claire's a popular lady.
Yeah, she's great. But it's not any different. I don't think the energy is any different because you are using the brain in the same way and the energy field in the same way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Dave?
Yes, I did the whole mic thing again. Damn it. I'm acting like an absolute rookie here right now. Absolute rookie. All right. Sandra says, I like to think I did with my sweet father-in-law. He would just have to look me in the eye. When the mother-in-law would be ranting all day, and I would just know. Wouldn't that be more telekinetic?
No, she would just know what he was thinking.
Empathy, yeah.
Well, you would just, if you just know, it's like, it's clear cognizance. I mean, if you hear him in your head talking, that's pretty clear telepathy. But if you just know what he's feeling, it's empathetic clear cognizance. And, yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's get over to Linda's comment. Many times I asked my brother if he could give me a sign. I found a marble in the crook of a tree the next day. In my path, angels and guides sent me feathers as signs. That doesn't sound very telepathic. That sounds more like prayer.
That sounds like signs. And signs are a way of manifesting physically spiritual information. It's, the angels heard your prayer telepathically, and your brother heard your request telepathically. So you might not have heard him, but he is giving evidence that he heard you. They are giving evidence that they heard you. And people will say, oh, that's just crap. It could have just been feathers. Well, the fact of the matter is half the time we don't notice all the feathers there are around or marbles that are in trees or anything like that. So the fact that she was also listening because she noticed.
Mm-hmm. Dr. Jerry, and this will be our last one because it's time to head on home. She says, yes, I only wish that it was an ability that was functional all the time. The experience is so full and complete, no barrier, no resistance, just pure communication. It's an absolute beautiful thing. Elizabeth Anglin, thank you so much for being on Spaced Out Radio tonight. Always a beautiful time to have you on the show.
Thank you.
Anytime. And don't forget, Elizabeth can be heard on Spaced Out Radio's Spaced Out Sundays with Cosmic Passport's Elizabeth Anglin, 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern Time at spacedoutradio.com. And I also want to tell you that tomorrow night on the program, Jackie Chin will join us. We're talking vampires. We are talking zombies and her own psychic battle that she has gone through. It's going to be a great show starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern Time at spacedoutradio.com. Mr. Ron Bumblefoot THAL rocking in the background with Little Brother is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. We love Mr. B around here. He gets our rock horns going. We also want to say thank you to people like Static for being a brand new listener to this show tonight. Thank you so much for giving us the opportunity. Keep on rocking and keep that headband on, man. It looks good on you. It looks very good on you. We also want to say a big shout out to everybody who has donated so far to our GoFundMe account. That's GoFundMe.com. We own the /WeOwnTheNight. GoFundMe.com /WeOwnTheNight as we try and build a new studio around here to go more terrestrial. We also want to say a big thank you to everybody listening at home, in your cars, at work. To everyone on Periscope.tv, thank you for participating tonight. Everybody on Twitter at #SpacedOutRadio. In the Spreaker chat room, along with the SOR Space Travelers, the veterans, as we like to call them around here. Thank you so much for making this a fun show. I will talk to you in 21 hours from now. And I hope you join us too, because together, my friends, we own the night. See you tomorrow night. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Have a good one.